Hello, hello. What's up, folks? Nobody's here yet, but that's okay. Um, it's gonna be a pretty short stream. I was thinking about maybe doing a decently long one, playing some matches and everything, but I've gotten very invested in painting my Imperial Guard army. So I'm gonna do the replays that I've received from everybody from the new player tournament that I didn't do when we were doing it live yesterday. I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna go back to painting, and I'll probably try and do an army showcase for my tabletop stuff sometime in the next month, maybe, because I'm making pretty good progress on it. The thing that I've been struggling the most with right now is painting all the Lehman Russes and what are they called? Chimeras. The APCs that the Imperial Guard use. I'm pretty sure they're called chimeras, but I'm painting all those guys. I've been trying to find the right stuff to use for like plastique to get the camo patterns that I want. I used some oven baked clay on one of my Lehman Russes and it did not peel off right. Now it looks kind of bad, but we're fixing that up. I've found some good recommendations for what I should be using, and we'll be good to go from there. So let's get into it. I'm gonna just make sure that I got all the replays from folks, and then I'll just go through. I'll do all the ones that people haven't already seen, and we'll go from there. I think we did watch. Yeah, we did watch this game. This was a good match too. The Grand Cathay versus Bretonia game from yesterday. That was wild. It was tight as hell too. Discord didn't want to open, I guess. Just need it to open up so I can make sure that I got everybody's stuff, because I want to give everybody an opportunity to get their time in the sun, so to speak. Show off what they have in mind, like all the cool text that people bring. Like, we've got some wildly creative players out here, like some really cool builds. Definitely want to make sure that those all get shown off. I think we do actually have a couple here that I missed out on. Okay. Ooh, corn versus greenskins. That's gonna be fun. Dowie versus Vampire Coast. Coast versus Coast. Yeah, we can replace the two. What the fuck is this build? Holy shit. Okay. Well, I guess we're gonna start with this one. This is wild looking. So, what a great way to kick it off. We've got Young Cash Register, aka Out a Little Broomstick versus Spikes. So Young Cash. Young Cash and Spikes going up against one another. Kislev versus Dowie on Chateau. This should be pretty Dowie favored. Dowie actually are one of the factions that I think can do especially well against Kislev, just because Dowie have really good shooting for really cheap, but they might struggle with the build that's coming in here, honestly.
My snows shall keep you safe this day.
I mean, this is just like next level wild. We got a Ice Switch with the Ice Switch with Tempest magic, Blizzard, the Glacial Blast ability, you know, Fire Blood, obviously, Arcane Conduit, and the Snow Leopard summon, 2 Heavy War Sleds, a Warbear Rider, and 2 Griffin Legion, and that's it for the opening. Dowie, they've shown up with the Skyhammer Squadron. Love to see them. You don't see the old ROR Gyro Bombers too terribly often, but it is quite effective still. Gyrocopters with the steam guns do kind of outshine it. You know, used to kind of be the other way around. You would see the Skyhammer all the time, and you would never see gyrocopters. Now it's a little bit flipped around. Good to see it in here, though. Tons of miners with blasting charges. They're going to be very vulnerable to the Kislev army that's out here. I think you're seeing all these blasting charges as a counter to Kislevite warriors. Just because, you know, the Kislevite warriors are pretty low armor, and they're really stalwart infantry, and they can trade pretty well into the Dowie warriors if they're on the field. Don't really see too many of those. We've got some Iron Breakers, we got some Thunderers, we got some Slayers rounding out the rest of the army with Thoric Ironbrow. And we're going to kick it off, man. These miners are going to get absolutely schwacked here, I'm afraid. The gyrocopters, though, are going to be pretty unrelenting. There is absolutely nothing to counter them right now. Heavy War Sleds trade really poorly into them. You can see right off the bat, man. Spikes coming in here hot and heavy with the shooting from the gyrocopters, absolutely obliterating these Griffin Legion so far. They do get a good charge on the miners here. These miners, they have a little bit of a worse time just because they're not getting any fire support and do get completely flattened and routed. This miner probably going to be able to survive, honestly. The Griffin Legion do have their Fire Blood procced already, continuing to take shots, and they're probably just going to outright die here. Griffin Legion securing this position here. The Skyhammer Squadron looking to get overhead and drop some bombs potentially. They are maneuvering forward, but the Griffin Legion doing a decent job of dodging, getting out of there pretty well, while the Warbear Riders and the Frostworm get in there on the other unit of miners. However, the Slayers did maneuver up, and they are on top of the Warbear Riders, doing some nice damage to these guys. They definitely need to maneuver out of there. They don't want to be in a sustained combat against Slayers. Really bad fight for them. But the War Sleds, I'm going to tell you all the secret to defeating Slayers real quick. So Slayers are excellent at fighting cavalry, but one thing, and a large target that counters them incredibly hard is chariots. Chariots absolutely wreck Slayers. Slayers are so bad against chariots because they can't get good attacks off on them. Really nice Blizzard. Hitting the Slayers, hitting the miners here, and clipping the Iron Breakers a little bit, doing decent work. Kislev down pretty horribly, though, in terms of value. And this build proving to be quite mediocre against the Dowie. I think if you just went with a more standard Kislev build, with bows and guns and all of the like that you typically see Kislev bring, they'd be doing a lot better. Coming in with all of these cavalry and expensive Warbear Riders and the like is just a little too thin. Dowie absolutely feast when their gyrocopters are given an opportunity to just ride around the battlefield and fire in for free. You can see just how much damage they're doing. Absolutely schwacking the Ice Switch of Tempests here. She's getting obliterated. The Snow Leopard here, this is the summon. It is also getting beaten up pretty badly. And these War Sleds definitely should be getting some damage done here. They could be riding through all these miners and the Grim Delvers here. Grim Delvers getting some fat value, I'm sure. They were absolutely icing the Ice Witch. And Thunder is doing nicely. All of the units for the Dowie trading pretty well so far. Doing some nice work. Dash's Hearthblades. The Arwar Zargard coming out, trying to make a difference. Getting lit up by blasting charges right now. Grim Delver's not in a position to mulch those guys up. And the Heavy War Sleds are getting some good damage in here. But the Dowie have enough of a formation here that all they really need to do is just spread the missiles out a little bit. Just like peel them to either side. And then they can just work down the Heavy War Sleds as they go. Dowie do have plenty of AP out on the field to deal with these guys. The Gyrocopters could be doing it. For whatever reason, they are back here. They're chasing the Shattered Ice Witch. Bit of a waste, honestly. You know, it's very important to recognize when you've got an advantage over your opponent. If you've shattered a unit, there's no point in chasing it. Especially for Dowie, who don't, like, charge any army abilities on routing units or anything. I guess killing the Ice Witch is great, but she's, I mean, already, she literally died on the edge of the battlefield. She was going to route off anyways. You were going to get the benefit of breaking the leadership here. Might as well be back here shooting at the Heavy War Sleds, because the Heavy War Sleds have actually killed Thorix somehow. I don't know how the hell they pushed him out of formation so badly, but nevertheless, Kislev killing the Dowie Lord here. Dash's Hearthblade's getting shot to hell. Absolutely no value to speak of out of these guys. 600 value is really not that good. They've been getting messed up this entire time by the Skyhammers, and just look at that. Goblin Hero, man, actually getting off a volley and obliterating the War Sleds. Oh my god. That's actually kind of cool, though. Worth keeping in mind for the future, because the Goblin Hewer, you know, I mean, it's not the most amazing unit in the world, but it does disgusting amounts of damage. It does have that bonus versus large. That's definitely what gave it that big boost in damage against those Heavy War Sleds. One volley, killing those units, and the Heavy War Sleds are really good against Dowie generally. My issue is more just with the fact that you didn't just bring a ton of armored Kossars. Or even just regular Kossars. You know, regular unarmored Kossars with the bows have really good range. They can definitely trade decently against Thunderers and the like. You know, Rangers and other such Dowie units also tend to struggle against the Kossars. Kossars just kind of rock up and they start shooting into the Dowie. But Dowie do have good way to fire. You can see that, you know, they do have ways of dealing with the armored Kossars. Granted, these guys are pretty outnumbered. I like the boldness of the build from the Kislev player, but you can't go that thin and not have any answers to Gyrocopters. Gyrocopters are pretty easy to counter for Kislev. You just bring, like I said, Kossars or the armored Kossars, and you've got something that can counterfire these guys. They're pretty short range, 100 range on these guys. It's the sustained fire that they have that tends to do the most damage. So if they can just sit and shoot unimpeded, is typically where they really dominate games. Which is kind of what you're starting to see here. They're really starting to take over. The Skyhammer Squadron doing disgusting amounts of value here. 2,000 value on these guys, and they still have a couple of bombs left. They're probably going to go and drop them on the Griffin Legion or something. Gotrek coming out here, not a great tool against the Dowie. You know, I mean, he's here to, like, remove big single entity units that are large and pretty ponderous, you know, like a giant or something, if you think your opponent might be bringing giants or the like. Not that you'll see them brought against Kislev too terribly often, but that's the kind of target he wants to fight. Against Dowie, I don't see the point of bringing him. So I think this is a bit of a build diff here. Just going to fast forward through the rest of it. I mean, Kislev literally has nothing on the field at this point, other than Gotrek, who's fruitlessly chasing the Grim Delvers, who are just kiting away from him. I'm wondering if anything even bothers to take the time to finish him off. Truthfully, he's pretty pointless here. More Warbear riders coming out and getting shot to death. Very funny stuff. Streltsy coming out. Streltsy are really good here. You know, if more of Streltsy had been on the field, they could probably have shot down the gyros. I mean, you can see how quickly they start to mince through those guys. And they do outrange the Thunders. No, they have the same range. And actually the same missile profile. It's kind of interesting. Do they fire at the same rate, though? Yeah, they do. That's kind of cool. So, Streltsy and Thunder is kind of the same unit, except Streltsy obviously have the armor-piercing weapon strength. Very good hybrid unit. You could probably have brought a bunch of these guys, and the, oh my god, the bombs coming in there doing obnoxious amounts of damage, man. Wow, oh wow, is the Skyhammer Squadron
You have been
definitely showing a little bit of chops there that I wouldn't have expected it to have, truthfully. So yeah, it's going to be our first replay of the day. Big win for the Dowie, absolutely smacking down the poor Kislevites there. I like the idea behind the Kislevite build, but you just can't do this. You can't bring this much cavalry in the opening. And Warbear Riders, definitely not. Just, you gotta have answers to Gyrocopters against Dwarves right now. Gyrocopters are just so dominant and overrepresented in the Dowie metagame right now. Not having an answer is basically asking to lose, and that's kind of what happened to Kislev there. So, worth keeping in mind for young Cash in the future. You can certainly bring the heavy war sleds. Don't get me wrong, those are great. You can probably just bring an Ice Witch on foot. That's all you really need against Dowie. You don't want to bring a Lord on a Frostworm. That's way too big, way too squishy to missiles. Cut Gotrek, and you can just bring all of the stuff that's here in the reinforcements. I mean, Zargard with the great weapons are an awesome answer to Dowie infantry. Absolute world beaters against those guys. Streltsy are a good addition. Just optimizing that opening for sure. Just bringing a bunch of Kossars. Armored Kossars too with the great weapons would be probably the best thing you can throw in to your opening build. You'll absolutely roll a Dowie front line, given the right engagements, of course. Dowie can trade very well against the Kislevites. They do have really good AP options with Thunderers and the like. They've got pretty good artillery as well, so they can trade reasonably well against Little Grom. Little Grom's not great in this matchup just because it doesn't have great targets. You'll rarely see that, but Dowie do have good enough artillery to be able to trade reasonably well against Little Grom. Alright, let's do a coast versus coast showdown here. We've got Huntress Himbo and Fabrosi going up against one another. Two very different builds. Some of the overlaps here make a lot of sense, you know. You've got handguns in each build, and then you've got the pistol mobs here. Pistol mobs are very good coast versus coast, just because animated Hulks and Morghuls are very vulnerable to the pistol fire. If you can just layer up tons of missiles on top of one another, you can pretty reasonably deal with anything that's going to be coming out against you, just because Vampire Coast is a very slow faction. But Fabrosi does have mortars, which Huntress Himbo does not have any of. Mortars are very good when they can be protected by mass missile fire, and I like the inclusion of the Terrorgeist, but I think it's going to be kind of difficult for them to, for Huntress Himbo to find a good target for that thing. There's not a lot available from Fabrosi's build that's going to be very vulnerable to that. It can go after Aranessa and the Fleet Captain, but, you know, Aranessa does have a meaty bonus versus large 43. That's actually pretty insane. So, maybe not the best target. The Deathstreak Terrorgeist does have the regen, and it's got a decent charge bonus, so it can probably, like, cycle charge her out. But, regardless, we'll see where it can go. Shade Wraith Gunners, Deck Gunners. Fabrosi really loves the Shade Wraith and Deck Gunner play. Very commonly brings that, and very aggressive with the opening, with the Scurvy Dogs just going right in on these gunnery mobs here. But the gunnery mobs of Huntress Himbo are trading reasonably effectively into the their opponents here. They obviously got some good shots off to get these guys a little bit lower, so they're probably going to be winning the combat unless these scurvy dogs keep playing like this. Bouncing back and forth, lowering the leadership and health on each of these gunnery mobs might be able to free it up for these guns here to be able to take this objective. Fabrosi's actually capping it ahead of Hunter's Himbo here. More gunnery mobs moving up. They do have Vanguard also, that's worth knowing, so they can get up to objectives a little bit quicker. Hunter's Himbo doing a good job of capping the middle here, but Fabrosi really doesn't have much moving up there. Some Morghuls moving out to the flank, into the main core of the Vampire Coast here. The mortars lining up some good volleys on the gunnery mobs that are in the middle. Getting some good shots in there. They're going to do some really good damage if they start connecting here. Boom. Landing in here, a little inaccurate, not getting the best shots, but a couple land pretty square. You can see how much damage those mortars do. Mortars just have great splash damage. You know, it's not very good against armored stuff, but not a lot of armor on Vampire Coast. Rotting Prometheans and Depth Guard are really the only thing with any kind of armor to speak of. Capping the number 3 objective is Hunter's Himbo. Does deal with the Scurvy Dogs and the Gunnery Mob here. Doing a good job, but taking quite a bit of damage. Does lose most of the health off of both of the Gunnery Mobs here. So Fabrosi trading pretty evenly. Very even game, actually. Neck and neck currently on the value lead. Two very experienced gunline players so far. But these handgunners getting jumped by the Scurvy Dogs. I love how aggressive Fabrosi is with the Scurvy Dog play. Especially knowing the favorable engagements for them. They're fighting some Fellbats now. They're doing decently against those things. Fellbats, though, do have pretty good melee defense, actually. And I do believe will outtrade the Scurvy Dogs in a prolonged engagement. Morghuls doing a good job of pushing in on the other handgun. But they're pretty overextended, and this is where the Terrorgeist is going to do some really nice work. Obviously, it's got the anti-large profile here. Also has poison, and 25 is plenty to be able to get past the pretty mediocre melee attack that it has at base and get through the Morghuls' melee defense, which is pretty low anyways, but an extra 25 on top of the 41, giving it the extra punching power, and definitely going to start chipping these guys down pretty brutally. Really good weapon strength on those guys too, so it can take out a model with each swing just about, I believe, which is really nice. Hunter's Himbo doing a good job of trading here. Does kill the Scurvy Dogs off and uses the Fellbats to push pretty aggressively into the back line where it's trying to follow up on one of the other Fellbats that's been summoned out. Doing a good job of dealing with the deck gunners of Fabrosi. Fabrosi's deck gunner here getting ripped apart right now, but some good overlapping fire from these gunnery mob are shooting down the Fellbats decently. Probably not going to save this deck gunner in time, though. But the Shade Wraith gunners are here. They're doing decently for themselves. But we'll have to see if there's going to be any kind of response here against the Damn Knights Errant. Silostra moving up very aggressively. Squeaking through the frontline fight, actually. We've got Fabrosi's zombies moving up onto the middle point here. Starting to push into the lines of Hunter's Himbo. Hunter's Himbo taking a good opportunity just to slip through with Silostra. She's pretty difficult to deal with if you don't have the magical missiles. And the Shade Wraith Gunners are positioned very aggressively forward in a way that Silostra can just play around the shot blocker here and be pretty safe from them. Using the Damn Knights Errant summon to get after the mortars. Losing the mortars is going to be really punishing. Fabrosi did lose a game in this same tournament to the Tomb Kings in the semifinals, where the mortars and the carronades got compromised pretty badly by Nekara horsemen and skeleton horsemen. So I think Fabrosi could definitely stand to be a little bit more patient with defending the artillery pieces, because these mortars are a big X factor. I mean, they would absolutely body all of the not artillery, but infantry and range pieces on the field for Hunter's Himbo, if given the opportunity to fire into the late game. But losing one of them to the Damn Knights Errant, you like to see that. 400, 500 value on them is a pretty good target to hit. Oh my god, the Deathstreak Terrorgeist lands back here. Gets absolutely obliterated by missile fire. I'm honestly kind of stunned. Doing a really good job of concentrating fire from the handgunners there. With the deckhand mobs. Shade Wraith Gunners getting some good damage in there too, and just completely obliterating that very expensive piece for Huntress Himbo, and Fabrosi with that one pick swinging it all the way back, down about 2,000 value, now about 500 up. Great stuff there, man. Felbat's coming in, continuing to collapse on more of the gunnery mobs, picking them apart, just occupying a lot of attention here, needing some dedicated peel for sure. These guys, as I said, do have really good melee defense. Crappy little zombie halberds are not going to do it, but some Mornghuls and Depth Guard with polearms are definitely capable of getting some good damage in there. The fleet captain hasn't used Denizens of the Deep yet, just casting Tide Call, getting some good damage, presumably against the Sirens and the polearms here. And Fabrosi doing a decent job of keeping that lead that has been developed so far. Not losing anything too important other than the mortars here and a deck gunner, while Huntress Himbo losing that Terrorgeist. Big loss. Big loss. That's a very important unit to keep around. You know, I understand wanting to be aggressive against the Shade Wraith Gunners, but I think if you really wanted to do something about those guys, you've got these handgunners here. You can just push them up and keep them safe behind the front line and just slowly value trade against the Shade Wraith Gunners. Throwing the Terrorgeist in, Shade Wraith Gunners are what? 1,000 value in total? Deathshriek Terrorgeist is 2,000. Very much not a worthwhile trade even if you do kill the Shade Wraith Gunners there. Definitely want to keep that thing alive to be the X factor against the Night Terrors and the other Mornghuls that Fabrosi is bringing out. Much better use of your time, honestly. And, man, Huntress Himbo just doesn't seem to have a lot of heavy-hitting units. Just a lot of chaff coming out still from the from Huntress Himbo here. Deck Gunners really not providing a lot of value back here. They're just way too far back. They could push a lot farther forward. They could trade into the Shade Wraith Gunners pretty decently as well. But I think being a little scared of the mortar back here. More Felbats coming in here, and Fabrosi developing out more than enough to be able to protect a lot of the units that are still out here on the battlefield. The mortar has used up a lot of its ammunition, gotten okay value, hasn't paid for itself, but has definitely gotten a lot of damage done. And put a lot of units towards their crumbling state on Huntress Himbo's side. And losing it, not the worst thing in the world. You've got some Mornghuls out and ready to party. And push back the other Vampire Coast player pretty decently. But still pretty even game, man. Oh my goodness. I'm not 100% sure who's going to be taking this. The Shade Wraith Gunners are saved. The Felbats falling pretty quickly to the concentrated efforts of the Mornghuls and various missile units that Fabrosi has back here. Depth Guard taking a nasty volley on the way in, though. Getting massacred by the hand cannons in close combat. These things are just so devastating. I mean, you really only need one good volley out of them and they pay for themselves. They only cost about 600 gold, I believe. And they're up to 500 value already, but a good summon of the Denizens of the Deep here from Fabrosi. Getting on top of these guys, locking them down, and not letting them continue to kite back. Depth Guard would have caught them anyways, but, you know, Depth Guard is still decently slow. 36 speed versus 23. You don't really want to be Benny Hilling a 500 gold unit around while you're taking gunfire from deck gunners and other hand cannons for sure, but really nice call-in of some scurvy dogs getting on top of these hand cannons here. Just as they move up, they get intercepted. And the gunnery mob with the bombs here. Definitely going to be able to do some good damage in return to the scurvy dogs, but they're going to kill the rest of their own unit here probably. Look at the damage, dude. Oh my god. One good volley from those guys. Absolutely deleting the scurvy dogs from the battlefield here, but they've done their job. They've put the hand cannons to crumbling here. Definitely going to be losing those guys as Huntress Himbo. Hand cannons here. Pretty much the same story here. They've just about paid for themselves, though, but Huntress Himbo really needs something else to come out here and perform well, because it's looking scary. These Morghuls and the Depth Guard are doing decently for themselves, but need to capture an objective soon for Brosi. Just about out of range of the triple cap here. Needs to cap this objective ASAP to ensure that there's no late game shenanigans going on where you have to split push all 3 objectives and hold on to everything. Especially when a game is this even. That can get really hazardous. Salt Lord Scuttlers, they're moving up here. They're going to be getting their bombs on target. Attacking the polearm zombies here, doing some decent damage, man. Those bomber bats are pretty vicious. Especially these guys with the armor sundering. They don't have a ton of volleys, but they fire pretty quickly, and they can definitely get them out before they get gunned down. Especially in a matchup that has, you know, obviously a lot of missiles on the field. At least typically. Another really good volley here, getting on top of these handguns and the scurvy dogs here who are trying to help peel the scurvy dogs off of the handguns, funnily enough. And another really good volley going to help karate chop those scurvy dogs. And we'll see if Huntress Himbo can get the other scurvy dog unit into the Shade Wraith Gunners, finish those guys off potentially. Taking a little bit of fire on the Salt Lord Scuttlers now. Definitely need to pull those guys back. They have a very low HP pool. 4,400 is nothing, basically, especially against concentrated missile fire like this. Fabrosi doing a really good job with the targeting here and shooting those guys down. This game is so close. Fabrosi has pulled a bit of a value lead here. Is capping the number 3, slowly capping up the number 2. Depth Guard with polearms, uncontested on the middle here. Is Huntress Himbo going to be able to bring anything out to counter those guys? It's looking pretty scary right now. The Morgul Haunter has been on the battlefield for quite a while now and really has not had a great opportunity to fight anything. Fighting against Aranessa right now, who is in an ideal combat. She is great against targets like this. Absolutely icing this big beastie here. And Terrors of the Fog falling to the daughter of Manon, I believe. I think she's the actual canonical daughter of the vengeful sea god, so to speak, which is pretty cool. Very fun thematically. Aranessa looking for some more one-on-one fights, going after Silostra here, who might not even make it. Shade Wraith Gunners finally turning some attention to her. They do have the magical attacks to mitigate the Fizz Res here. Definitely going to chew through her pretty quickly if they get some on-target shots here. And as you can see, she is falling pretty quickly, down to about 1,500 HP. Night Terror, or not Night Terrors, but just regular old Morghuls going after her. Night Terrors are over here helping destroy some Sirens. And Fabrosi with, you know, his own Siren summon, Siren on Siren action. Ghostly ladies everywhere, doing their best to try and grind out a victory for their respective sides. Scurvy Dogs show up to help get rid of these polearms, and the number 3 objective flipping to Fabrosi here. It's so razor close, but you know, when you get to this stage of the game and you've got such a significant ticket lead, you gotta build up on an objective. This definitely is a winnable game for Huntress Himbo, despite the pretty mediocre trading and summons out. You know, I really think that Huntress Himbo could have been bringing out a lot of what Fabrosi was. You know, Morghuls, Depth Guard with polearms, just regular old Depth Guard, you know. Stuff like that would have been really nice to see from Huntress Himbo, but really none of that. Mostly just Fellbats and a bunch of other units designed to pick off, like, ranged units and kind of push back and bottle up his opponent. But if you're going to play that style, you really do need to have something to just hold an objective, because now Fabrosi is the triple cap, and it's pretty much game here. Sirens being dealt with, Fellbats dying, they don't even have cap weight to begin with. Depth Guard with polearms, stuffing some handgunners back here. Sirens trying to get up on the point, but they're taking some fire, and the Shade Wraith Gunners with a couple of volleys left. Gonna turn attention to these guys assuredly at some point. Finish them off, and I'm gonna fast forward through the rest of this one. Fabrosi's slowly going to grind this game out. And just lock down all of these objectives, probably. There is a bit of a path here to capping this number 1 objective, but does have to clear through some units in order to effectively do so. Probably not going to be able to do it, although maybe a last-second attempt here coming in. Maybe going to be able to swing it, but I feel like these Morghuls are going to do enough damage to these Scurvy Dogs, especially with Silostrum being dead. And yeah, calling it there. Huntress Himbo making a very valiant play at the end. Thought maybe there was a chance he could get back in it, but not so. Losing the Death Shriek Terror, guys, very painful. Definitely could have used that on the battlefield late game there to go around and just beat up on Morghuls mostly. It would have been really nice to be able to do that. Morghul Haunter I don't feel is very good in this matchup. What's it going to go fight, really? I mean, maybe if your opponent has a Fleet Admiral with a pistol, he'd be a pretty good hero. But you're going to see Noctilus and, I mean, Araness is a nice pick too, but Noctilus and the Halberd Fleet Admiral probably what you're going to see more often than not. And the Morghul Haunter simply isn't good against those targets. They just counter them too efficiently. So, I think saving a little gold there and keeping the Death Shriek Terrorgeist alive and more functional into the late game would have been the play. And you probably would have been able to pull out a win here because Fabrosi was pretty thin on the ground. Those Morghuls ended up being huge late game masters there. Definitely helping secure some of those objectives and beat up on the Scurvy Dogs at the end too. Just good stuff from Fabrosi, staying very aware of the ticket situation and making the right pushes at the right time to secure the triple cap and not lose the game there. 1900 on these handguns too. Shady Wraith Gunners with 2200 doing a good job of protecting those 2 units and getting the absolute maximum amount of value out of them. That's why you bring missile units. Missile units tend to not... The way that missile units work, in my experience, is they either do nothing because your opponent did a good job of countering them, or your opponent doesn't have any more answers and is gassed trying to get to them, and then you just take over the game with your missile play and rack up obscene amounts of value using your superior missile fire. Tends to be what happens. So, good stuff there. We're going to be going through Dak Ninja versus Spikes, Drakenhof Conclave versus Karas Karak. Got the Dowie here versus the Undead, and certainly not the most common matchup. You know, used to be a staple of the Warhammer 2 days. Vampire counts were absolute terrors in the old Warhammer 2 meta in the land battle days. Not so good in Dom. They do have a lot of vulnerabilities because of their very limited roster. Especially since Warhammer 3 came out, and there's a lot of factions that can do some pretty good work against them. Even towards the end of Warhammer 2, they were starting to fall off a little bit, but capable players can still do some pretty great stuff with these guys. Scrambled Egg Special, especially, comes to mind. Probably the best undead player out there right now. But we'll see if Dak Ninja can show us all a little something here against the Dowie. Miners with blasting charges, forming the bulk of the main force here. The Thunderers, the Grudge Raker Thunderers, no less. With their shotguns, going to be able to do some nasty damage if they get into range and are not shut down by the mobility that the Vampire Counts can bring to the table, which is definitely one of their strengths. Vargheists, Crypt Horrors, and Direwolves, situationally, they're pretty good. You certainly want to bring the Dire Pack, since they're kind of like the Beasts of Tashnar, but better just because they're undead and they don't rout. They just stay in and trade efficiently against any large target, basically. And they do pretty good here against, like, Slayers and stuff, so we'll see if any of that comes out for the Vampire Counts. Some Crypt Ghouls do secure the objective out here on the right side, the number 1. And Vlad von Karstein and the Double White King moving up onto the number 2. The blasting charges do throw in against him. Bit of a waste. They do a little bit of damage, but he does obviously have Blood Drinker, which is just a stupendous heal for him. doing some really good work here. And the White Kings are excellent counters to the Dragon Slayers. They do have an anti-infantry profile. Decent stats here. We'll see, though, you know, Felix showing up here as well as Thorek. Gonna do some pretty good work. You know, Dowie hero squads can be pretty dangerous if you're not careful. And this White King is definitely in the wrong neighborhood right now, taking nasty damage. Miners going in against zombies and the skeleton spears here, doing some good damage. Unholy Lodestone does get into combat, pretty unopposed though. Definitely going to start giving some good heals in a radius to all of these vampire count units. Pretty reliant on these corpse cards getting good value. And what I mean by value, they obviously don't like do damage, but getting those heals, giving like reliquary binding, and, well, they don't get, this one does not give the reliquary binding. It's getting it from the Mortis engine, but giving the heal and the Vigor Mortis to everything around it. You know, perfect Vigor and a passive heal, even if it's only 0.05, is pretty strong. And going over the course of a long game, those corpse cards can heal and cap stuff shockingly fast, and you never want to let the vampire counts get those heals going. Thoric and all of the heroes here for the Dowie are beating up on Vlad pretty convincingly. He's taking a lot of damage right now. White King's trying to help out, going after Thoric and the Dragon Slayer here. Where's Felix? Felix getting a little trapped up though. And Vlad can definitely beat up on Felix here. I think the White King and Vlad need to turn and finish off old Felix Jaeger here. And I think that would give the vampire counts a nice little situation into the late game. Lots of vampire count forces out here on the number 3. They have not capped it. They're feeding a lot of value here to the Dowie. Man, oh man, are they getting punished by the gyro fire. Bombs as well. Lots of good focus fire coming in from the dwarves here, wrecking all those cheap zombies. Graveguard with great weapons forming up back here as a bit of a second line, but they don't have any protection from these gyrocopters, and the gyros are in the perfect position to just farm value right now. They can just fire against these great weapon infantry all day and just rack it up, man. Dowie loving life there, but the middle looking a little hectic, man. Mortis engine doing a good job of sucking the life out of everything in this blob. It does decent work against SEs as well. It's not as powerful as a Spirit Leech, but it does passively drain the HP off of targets like this, and that's going to rack up over the course of a game. That's where Mortis engines can get a lot of sneaky value. You think you're sending in good counters to it, but really nothing wants to be near a Mortis engine nowadays. Used to be that you could reliably send SEs against them, but not so much anymore. Vlad von Karstein staying in here, getting some healing from Blood Drinker and all of the passive heals. How much is being stacked up here? Is being mitigated right now. By fire damage? What's causing that? I think maybe Felix's ability. Karagul, I know, does give flaming attacks, so maybe he hit Vlad at some point. Oh, Thoric. Thoric's got the flaming attacks as well, I believe. So yeah, really good stuff from the vampire counts, trading decently here in the middle, but the Mortis engine getting gunned down unceremoniously by the Thunderers back here. Good focus fire from the Dowie, and that's actually going to swing this fight pretty hard, I think. Losing Thoric here, pretty bad. Certainly not ideal to lose your Lord, but good good leadership on dwarves across the board, and they've done a really good job of killing the great weapon Graveguard. One of them is maneuvering over, but they've just taken unholy amounts of punishment. Gyrocopters and the Gyro Bomber here doing good stuff for the Dowie here. Getting free value, and there's no Vargeist and no Fellbats. Fellbats and Vargeist, very important to be able to counter the Gyrocopter play. And it is starting to look like Dak Ninja is maybe going to learn the price of arrogance here, not bringing anything to counter those guys. You do, I mean, like I said against...
One of your units has been destroyed.
Like I said with the Kislev game that I covered earlier, which was Dowie Kislev. Kislev had no answers to the Gyrocopters and Gyro Bomber. And as you can see here, they're just continuing to rack up sick value. Up by about 4,000 now. You know, typically the vampire counts can actually rally from a deficit like this, but not without any of their corpse carts or mortis engines. Vlad is dead. One of the White Kings has died. There's one of, or actually, both White Kings are still alive, actually. This one's very low, though. Probably going to lose it soon. This White King here, kind of holding, doing as much as he can, but not going to be able to carry this game. And I think that the vampire counts are pretty cooked here. Good stuff from Spikes, taking full advantage of the gyrocopters just being safe and laughing all the way to the value bank, so to speak. Felix is holding in here, doing decent work against this White King. How much value does Felix have? 1,500, actually. Good grief. Real nice stuff. The other characters for the Dowie are dealt with. Don't see the Dragon Slayer. I do know that Thoric died earlier. Very aware of that. Dire Wolves helping harry down some of the Grudge Rakers here. And the, man, oh man, the Crypt Ghoul is doing a pretty good job of intercepting reinforcements as well. This is the kind of stuff Dak Ninja needed to be doing more of, honestly. Using the superior vampire count mobility to intercept reinforcements and get good value trades. You've got all the tools in the world. Like I said, you've got Dire Wolves that are pretty good, especially good against Slayers, obviously. But, you know, Crypt Ghouls are a pretty good answer. You can push past with Graveguard and get back there, too. Nothing's stopping you. Vargeists are an excellent tool, as well as Fellbats, just to tie stuff up and drag things down. So, more of that earlier would have definitely kept this game a little bit closer. Would have at least given the Gyrocopters some food for thought to have to maneuver around the battlefield a little bit more to try and save reinforcements a little bit more often. Instead, you've just got a big angry core of Dowie, just slowly killing the trickled-in units of the vampire counts here. Fast-forwarding through the rest of it, we've got some Dire Wolves intercepting units in the back. You know, Thunderers trying to save themselves, but not able to get away from the ferocity of these hounds. Slowly working down these ranged units might do something for the vampire counts. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to see. I'm really just not loving the position they're in regardless. They do have... they're decently close in terms of tickets, but they really do need to secure more objectives here. They are losing the middle. They're probably going to lose the number one out here. The Crypt Ghouls did eventually lose to the Slayers. These Slayers doing pretty nice for themselves, man.
One of your units has been
1435.
destroyed.
I think they've come in a couple of times, though, so... They do have a decent number of models and can trade reasonably well into the late game in their current state. Crypt Ghouls intercepting some Slayers. Really nice stuff. I like the inclusion of those Crypt Ghouls in this matchup. They have really good weapon strength.
One of your units
If Vlad were still on the field, their leadership crumbling wouldn't be as severe, and they'd be able to hang in a little bit longer.
The enemy has
Corpse
captured
Cart,
one of your victory points.
fresh and
Take
coming
it
out of
back.
the spawn, doing a decent job of healing up some of the vampire count units here, but it's too little too late. Dowie are going to be able to start bringing up more Grudge Rakers and Thunderers, and just whittling down this middle position here. And the Dowie are going to be taking this game pretty convincingly.
Woeful tidings.
Really well played. Actually, the vampire counts, I've completely misread this. My bad, guys. The vampire counts almost had the win on points there, but the Dowie persevering through it and actually taking a triple cap here. So, Skeletons, Spearmen, and Zombies maybe going to be able to flip this number one objective with some Direwolf play. Is Dak Ninja actually going to win this game? There's no way, right? I mean, oh my god. Maybe if I were just not yapping nearly as much and actually paying attention a little bit more closely to, you know, the color schemes, I'd have actually noticed just how incredibly razor thin this game is in terms of the ticket lead. Dwarves have to summon out something right now. It takes forever for Dowie units to move up onto objectives. They're so laser focused on the middle, which they're still losing somehow. Unbelievable, dude. I'm a complete fool and a moron here, man.
You have the foes.
Vampire counts somehow out-muscling the Dowie on 2 objectives despite being down pretty badly on value there for quite a bit. Miners, Grudge Rakers, Thunderers, all of these units desperately trying to stave off this rally from the Vampire Counts. And the Vampire Counts are going to win this game. 1481 and counting, and they've recaptured the #1 as well, and the Dowie just not quick enough to get out here and hold on to the objectives. Maybe putting a little too many eggs in one basket, resummoning the Lords. I think you would have been better served just summoning out more Slayers and missile units to start boxing out the Vampire Counts. But man, oh man, what a dub from Dak Ninja. I'm just shaking my head there. What a scrappy game. Stuffing back the Dowie there. 2,500 value on this White King. 2,400 on Vlad. He didn't stick around for very long, but he got some serious work done while he was here. I mean, killing Thoric and killing a Dragon Slayer, as well as working Felix to a pretty low HP total. That's a lot of work to put in, man. And look at these Ironbreakers with 452 kills and barely paying for themselves. Undead, you love to see it. That's the kind of value that you come to expect fighting against them. Lots of kills in these Slayers. They did pretty well. But man, I'm just kind of stunned, honestly. I really can't believe that the Vampire Counts held on to that game and won it there. I thought for sure that the Dowie had that in the bag. They had really pushed back the Vampire Counts, done a tremendous amount of damage to their army. The Gyrocopters traded really well. The Skyhammer Squadron was putting in a lot of work, but just not able to keep enough infantry on the objectives for long enough to take that game, man. Crazy stuff, honestly. Alright, on to the next one, guys. We've got Tima going up against the Greenskins here. This should be a pretty good matchup. Khorne versus Greenskins tends to be pretty even, honestly. This is one of the few matchups where I think Greenskins can perform pretty well on the whole, honestly. Just because the Wa tends to even out the melee prowess of Khorne, who probably is a little bit better in sustained combats, but Greenskins have really good answers to Fleshhounds and a lot of the other tools that Khorne usually relies on. We'll see how Tima plays it, but you know, I'm a little afraid here for the forces of the Blood God.
Devoted legion of killers.
Big formation of Throwing Axe Cav out here, moving up onto the #3, capping this objective up. Some Fleshhounds going to try and secure the #1, but a Vanguard of Night Goblin Archers might potentially be able to do some good damage here.
Keep it from
But the Fleshhounds, really good micro here from Tima. Dodging back and forth, just giving the Greenskins some food for thought for sure. I really wouldn't recommend charging in here. You know, I know that you can see the Night Goblin Archers here, but you have no idea what else might be in the woods here. There could be a whole other line of melee Night Goblins that could go in there. And just slowly grind down the Fleshhounds. Fleshhounds are very good at chasing down like lightly armored units like Squig Herds, Squig Hoppers, which is the anti-infantry cavalry that the Greenskins have access to. That's what they're best at, killing in this matchup. They're pretty bad at going after like Night Goblins. Obviously very bad against Orc Biggins. You just don't want to stay tied up against the Goblins for all that long. Greenskins just have a wealth of anti-large units to go after those guys. You know, especially now that there are Orc Boy Spears, they can do a pretty good job of holding flanks. And obviously, I don't think anybody needs to tell you that the Orc Boar Boy Biggin Cav are pretty monstrous in their abilities. Unfortunately, these Throwing Axe Cav, they do get rampaged by the Fermented Fungi, run directly into the heart of the Greenskin formation, and get absolutely obliterated. A little bit of friendly fire from the magic there. Trying to use Vindictive Glare, but they just blast their own dudes in the back. So the Bloodletters and Marauders get into combat pretty unhindered. But they are fighting, you know, Orc Boys trade pretty evenly into Marauders. Not the best fight for Marauders, honestly. Goblin Spears and Orc Spears should be able to stop these guys up for a decent amount of time. But the Bloodletters are going to be really good across the board elsewhere on the battlefield. Especially if they stay as safe as they are right now. Just getting good engagements against Orc Boys and even against Orc Biggins, they'll do pretty good. Vindictive Glare is doing some pretty good damage to these dual weapon Marauders who are moving up now. Trying to get into the middle and get on the flank here, which would be a pretty good situation for Khorne. And in fact, honestly, what I would recommend is taking the throwing axes, maneuvering them around behind right now, and then just getting a big alpha strike with all three of them running into the rear of this greenskin formation. You can probably break all of these units right now and pretty much ice the game, honestly. You know, Khorne's trading reasonably efficiently. The Furies are chasing off the Night Goblin Archers. Fleshhounds are in some pretty good fights here against Squigherd. I don't know why you're not summoning out any Boarboy Biggin cavalry. Boarboy Biggins with their disgusting charge bonus and weapon strength flatten Fleshhounds on the charge. I mean, literally, just they'll take out about half the health on one of these units if they get a good engagement. But Furies and the Fleshhounds helping Valkia out of this pretty bad situation against the Squigherds. Gonna be able to kill all of these little guys, and that's quite a bit of the reinforcement pool for the Greenskins right now. Good rampage, getting the throwing axes into these Orc Boy Spears. Oh, Goblin Spears, actually, who are still going to do respectable damage in return to these guys. Orc Boys fighting in the pits here. And the Boar Boy or not Boar Biggins, but just regular Orc Biggins doing decently here. Trading against Bloodletters, Khorne Halberds, and the Marauders. Dual weapon Marauders trade pretty favorably into Orc Biggins, and this is a Sword of Khorne, guys. This is going to be one of the most disgusting Sword of Khornes I've ever seen in my life. Give it to me, baby. We're getting the slow motion money shot and everything. Come on. There we go. Yes. Oh, baby. Pretty much one-shotting all of those units. That's pretty unfortunate for the Greenskins, but you can't blob up against Khorne like that. Especially if you're bringing a very, like, numbers-heavy, swarmy faction like the Greenskins. You really don't want to feed too many army abilities to Khorne because the power spikes you get as the Blood God from Horn of Khorne, Sword of Khorne, and Relentless Rage is pretty insane. Definitely doing some nice damage there. Not able to save the objective, though. The Greenskins do have a triple cap right now, but maybe the Blood God can start getting back into this game. The Sword of Khorne does not contribute to damage value dealt, so probably about 1,000 value not being reflected right now. Definitely want to use a Horseman. This very tattered Horseman can definitely go chase off the remains of these Squig Hoppers. And these guys, they can definitely go in and start running down the routing infantry and continuing to charge up the army abilities, which will give Khorne a really nice power spike into the late game. Bloodletters coming out here, more Fleshhounds, some Minotaurs coming out too. Minotaurs, they do pretty well against Orc Boys. We finally get some Orc Boys, but not the anti-large variant. Really need the Orc Boar Boy Biggins if you're going into this matchup. They're absolute necessities in terms of what you're going to be bringing to the table. You cannot win this matchup without them, in my opinion, but there are answers that Khorne has to them, obviously. Throwing axes can kite them out and do some pretty good damage with their AP axes. Minotaurs are pretty decent against them. They do trade downwards into them typically. But if you have good uses on your army abilities, especially Relentless Rage, you can usually clean up a Boar Boy Biggin pretty convincingly and then just go from there. Pop Relentless Rage as you get into another unit with some pretty tattered Minotaurs. And then trade upwards pretty nicely into those guys. So really lovely stuff from Timo right now. Doing a very good job of following up on all of the openings that Sword of Khorne has given him. just taking apart the greenskins one piece at a time, getting a bit of a value lead, continuing to rack it up. It takes time to get through all of these greenskin units. No matter how well you're doing, you've got to stay on your toes against these guys. They are so good at grinding back in against the Blood God. I mean, honestly, just purely because you have to get into melee against greenskins. And the more entities, regardless of which side they are on, that are in melee combat, charges up the Wah, and Wah is just a really nice battlefield-wide ability that can give you some pretty good options for trading into Bloodletters and other otherwise dangerous units that Khorne has in their roster. Night Goblins, they do launch their Fanatics forward. They get a little bit of damage on these Bloodletters, but they get rear charged by the Fleshhounds. Team are doing a really good job of getting those rear charges in with the expensive doggos, and just grinding out value slowly but surely. And the Night Goblin War Boss not quite able to do what he wants to do and get rid of Valkia. He does have pretty good combat stats and can definitely do some pretty good work against her. Although he really needs to be on the Squig. Bringing him on foot without the Squig makes little to no sense, just because he doesn't have armor piercing without the Squig that he rides on. And that's much better at dealing with Valkia, because then he also gets a bonus versus infantry, and Valkia obviously infantry sized, definitely something that needs to be accounted for by the Greenskins player. Needs to just have brought more Orc Biggins, or Orc Boarboy Biggins I should say. Regular Orc Biggins are pretty decent here too. They can struggle a little bit because Khorne does have quite a bit of magical damage to get around the Fizz Res that Savage Orcs rely on. Those guys aren't nearly as good, but the regular variants of Orc Boys, they do plenty and don't really need to bring much more than that. Getting pushed back here are the Greenskins. These Halberds have done pretty well paying for themselves and have a little bit of room left. Some Tattered Bloodletters also paying for themselves pretty nicely. Minotaurs moving to the middle objective. The number one objective still held by the Greenskins, but Khorne can kind of comfortably play from just holding two objectives here. Holding the 3 and the 2 should be plenty. You know, not out of this race on the tickets at all. And you can just keep summoning stuff out to chase off and kill all of these very tattered Greenskin units. It's going to make it hard for the Greenskins to start bringing stuff out. Just because if you shatter a unit, they don't go into the reinforcement pool until they're actually off the battlefield. So it can behoove you oftentimes to not completely kill off units that are routing. Get them to the point to where they shatter and then just let them slowly drift off the field. That can do you pretty good. Tima has a lot of supplies banked for reinforcements. Could definitely stand to summon some stuff out to hold these points. There's no reason not to. I know that Khorne tends to run pretty expensive on units, but definitely need to take advantage of it. He does finally bring out Minotaurs and 2 Bloodletters, which will be more than enough just to go stand on the number 3 and completely lock that out, probably. Minotaurs can do a pretty good job of responding around the battlefield and get some value that way. Minotaurs pushing deep into the formation here, getting after River Trolls. Another Vindictive Glare going down. I just don't think that this is the tool to use. Vindictive Glare doesn't have great armor-piercing values, and obviously Khorne has pretty significant spell resist on all of their units, 35%. Not really going to be doing a lot of damage with those Vindictive Glares. You might as well just bring the double Night Goblin Shaman and use Sneaky Stabbin', because that's got pretty good duration on it. It gives melee attack to the unit that it's cast on, as well as weapon strength, which is much better, in my opinion. It's not going to be mitigated at all by the spell resist. It's, you know, being targeted on your own units, so it's more passive, I guess, is how I would classify it. And it's just going to do you a little bit more in terms of giving you favorable trades. And Greenskins units do tend to need that magical support to get the most out of their impact. Sword of Khorne being dropped. Hitting the Orc Boys, doing some good damage, but doesn't really do a lot against the River Trolls, honestly. More River Trolls coming out, man. They can probably do a little bit, but I think the Greenskins might be cooked here. They've lost a little bit too much, in my opinion, to be effective into the late game here. There's also a lot of bloodletters on the field, but if you blunder forward your Minotaurs like this and get them cut off, and Greenskins, man, where are the Boar Boy Biggins? I'm telling you. This game would be completely different with just like 2 units of Boar Boy Biggins out on the battlefield as your first 2 summons. They control Minotaurs, they control Flesh Hounds, they control Horsemen to some degree, not nearly as well, just because the Horsemen are also a missile unit, but, you know, at least you can threaten these guys, and they can't just run into your backline and get rear charges for free, which tends to be the best way to use these, honestly. Their throwing axes, I find, are a little underwhelming. They don't fire very quickly, every 10 seconds, which isn't bad, but really isn't all that good. They've got short range, and they can get overwhelmed pretty easily. You know, they don't have the best leadership in the world. They're better used to, like, harry reinforcements and cut enemy units off. And there's been plenty of opportunities for them to do that, and Tima has been doing a very good job of using those guys to good effect.
You have the
Bloodletters grinding into the
victory
Orc Boys.
point.
Going to be able to keep the number 2 objective away from the Greenskins. Number 1 is pretty well secured by a unit of Bloodletters. Number 3 doesn't really have anything on it, but Greenskins don't really have any juice to get over there right now. Throwing axes, chasing around that little Night Goblin Shaman. They do end up killing him. They could have just left him alone, like I said, and run somewhere else since he was shattered. And it would have kept him out of the reinforcement pool for a long time. That's like one of the most niche tips and tricks to use, but it can serve you well on occasion. If your opponent has like a Footlord that you've broken, don't bother chasing it down and killing it. You can just let it slowly rout off the field, and oftentimes that can be more than enough. Good stuff from Tima, doing a very good job of counteracting a lot of the units that the Greenskins were relying on in this build. Let's go take a look at the reinforcements. I mean, just 2 of the Orc Boarblade Biggins. You don't need Orc Boarboys. Squig Hoppers do the same thing, but better. You can see this one got pretty good value. Squig Herds, they're not that good anymore. They used to be overrepresented in the Greenskins builds, but they got a lot of benefit out of being near Wurzag back before he got nerfed, and didn't have that Bonewood staff apply globally across the battlefield. That was massively like expanding the ability of these Squig Herds to do damage against a lot of different targets. Probably can do with bringing a couple, because they can lock Valkia down pretty cheaply, and they do have bonus versus infantry characteristics to do pretty good damage to her. They did most of the damage that she took this battle, and most of that was in the early going, so I think 2 is plenty. River Trolls, they're pretty good. Having Trolls against Khorne is pretty nice, even though there's a lot of flaming attacks on the Khornate roster. A lot of those units are pretty expensive, and you don't typically see in this matchup, honestly. So they're pretty safe to bring, funnily enough. And yeah, I think just with those few optimizations, you don't really need to change much of anything else here. Just bring Sneaky Stabbing and you're good. Alright, Slaanesh versus Grand Cathay. How many more do we have that I have not already showcased? We've watched this battle. Don't think we've seen this one, so we'll do Tomb Kings versus Vampire Counts. Chaos Dowie versus Vampire Counts is going to be pretty cool. Dowie versus Bretonia. Yeah, Dowie versus Bretonia. Grand Cathay versus Slaanesh. And then a couple more in here that I don't think we've done. So we've got quite a few to go, and we're just going to be rapid fire continuing on here. I'm going to go till I drop, basically. Or at least until I get bored enough to want to go paint my Astra Militarum some more. Stelio's coming in here with Grand Cathay versus Pep, who's on Slaanesh here. Fighting on Proving Grounds. Cathay with Zhao Ming here. Grand Cannon. We've got the Jade War Drum. Dune Dragons, a couple of halberds here, an Iron Hail Gunner, Peasant Long Spears, and one standard Jade Warrior. We've got, for the Forces of Slaanesh, obviously, Azazel. Some Devoted Marauders out there, Princes of Perfection. Princes of Perfection are pretty good, but I think they're better brought in the reinforcement pool. People tend to want to get rid of these guys, just because Perfect Vigor can be very annoying on a unit. So, you know, it's worth knowing that these guys actually tend to be pretty dangerous if you don't deal with them effectively. So if you bring them in the reinforcement pool and bring them somewhere where they can perform their job safely, that's generally the best way to get the most effect out of those guys. Chaos Spheres of Slaanesh are in the sky, and what else do we have? More Devoted Marauders, more Spears, lots of pretty cheap infantry, honestly. I would have figured that maybe, well, I guess you don't really need Demonettes in the opening. They're so fast, they can come out of the reinforcements pretty capably and perform nicely for you. Seekers are here. They're going to do some really good work against the armored units if they get an opportunity. And I know there are some fiends around here. Where the hell are they? Oh, here they are, hiding in the trees, moving up to the top of the hill here so they can get a god-awful view. You know, this is just terrible. Someone needs to come and bulldoze that down and build some ugly-ass suburbs in its stead. Azazel, probably going to go fight Zhao Ming. Azazel can do some pretty good work against him. Azazel's just such a good duelist character. Great stats across the board for that guy. Although the Iron Dragon is pretty capable in his own right and can definitely do some good work. We've got Demon Blade, Temptator, Lash, Pavane, and the army ability Blissful Rapture is really good, guys. I mean, 12 melee attack and some additional leadership for 10 seconds can definitely give you a good boost. That's for sure. Chaos Furies do take some cannonball fire, funnily enough. 11 models killed with this cannon. Wow, look at the man, they whip those things around. Strong ass oxen, but they don't end up continuing firing against these Furies. Grand Cathay definitely needs to bring something else out of here. Some Jade Lancers or something to defend the cannon. The Halberds are a cute idea. They're definitely going to help against Seekers or Fiends. But against Furies, they're going to be pretty helpless. These Furies do have armor-piercing attacks and decent enough melee attack to get through the Halberds here, especially if they get that rear charge. Devoted Marauders hanging out here, and man oh man, these Furies diving right on top of the Iron Hail Gunners. Really good choice here by Impenetrable. Doing a good job of shutting those down while the Marauders need to actually be scooting forward while that's going on, preferably. The worst thing that can happen here is that Pep does not send the Mirror Guard and the Prince of Perfection forward while the Furies are tying up the Iron Hails. The Iron Hails get free of these Furies, and then they just gun down the Mirror Guard. You've got to be on point with your micro when you're going up against formations that have these very powerful short-range missile units, especially AP missiles. AP missiles just wildly overperform if given the opportunity to actually fire. You really don't want to let them get free damage here. And it does look like Pep just a little too late, man. I'm saying, you had all the time in the world to move forward. Gotta be more synced up with that. Empress Crowman, or just a regular Onyx Crowman, comes out and helps the Halberds fight off the Furies. Seekers not getting a great jump on these Jade Warrior Halberds, getting shot up by the cannons now. Cannons are really good against these type of units, so clearing out these Seekers is going to be really nice for Cathay into the mid-game. And big value lead for Stelios so far, man. Dune Dragons getting into combat against the Mirror Guard as well. And good Pavane to rampage the Iron Hail Gunners in, so they're not getting any more free value on the Mirror Guard. They have done pretty decently for themselves with 350 value. They are only a 500 gold unit, so pretty good stuff. Prince of Perfection, not trading very well, man. They're really low armor. I would imagine that the Dragon Breath has already been used on these guys. generally, this is why I don't like bringing them in the open. And especially against Grand Cathay, like, what are they going to do other than get Dragon Breathed into oblivion, man? They're not good against Jade Warriors. They're not that great against Peasant Long Spears. Really, the only thing that they're going to do, like, well against is Peasant Horsemen. And I don't think you're going to see a lot of Peasant Horsemen from Cathay in this matchup. They're just not a good idea to bring in. Very low leadership unit, and, you know, Slaanesh charges army abilities off of wavering and routing units, so... Does have one out here fighting some Seekers, and you can see, these Seekers are pretty worked down already to begin with, and they're still kind of losing this combat. They might outright lose there, which would be very unfortunate. I think just a Jade Lancer would do better. Jade Lancers have much better charge bonus than the Peasant Horsemen do. They've got about the same melee attack characteristics, but having the 55 as opposed to 36 charge bonus is more than enough to give these guys the juice to just crush through the really squishy Seekers efficiently, honestly. Dune Dragons, just completely grinding out the Mirror Guard. Iron Hell Gunners, they're lined up here, getting a little bit of volley fire in here against the Exalted Demonettes who have moved up. They're very heavily engaged by Peasant Long Spears and the Onyx Cronin, who are just stacked on top of the Jade War Drum. You never want to fight Cathay on top of the War Drums, man. I've made the mistake before in the past in my own fair share of tournament games. I'm telling you this from experience. These things give them an obnoxious boost to combat prowess. Immune to psychology, reload skill, melee attack, to everything here, including these crappy peasant spears, all of which could have been routing by now if because Azazel does have terror. But because they're by this Jade War Drum, they're not going to be going anywhere until their leadership breaks, which is going to take forever because this thing also gives them additional leadership. I mean, this thing does it all. You've really got to make sure that you can kill these things if you see them on the field for Grand Cathay, and you want to pull apart the immobile formation that they're generally relying upon. This is a pretty small War Drum blob, honestly. Typically, Cathay is going to all in with this thing, but, you know, Stelio's playing a very, very scary game here, honestly, not doing so, and trying to defend this Grand Cannon, not quite paying for itself yet, man. That's very unfortunate. It does look like Fiends and the Seekers and Devoted Marauders are going to be able to deal with the Celestial Dragon Guard. The one cannon that's left, that's a great shot, though, honestly. Does some good damage to the Fiends, does good damage to the Seekers. And the Devoted Marauders with the Hell Scourges, man, holding up really nicely here, giving the DPS units an opportunity to do some nasty damage to the Celestial Dragon Guard. These guys are not getting the benefits of that Jade War Drum. You can see this is where the value is swinging really nicely for Slaanesh here. Slaanesh doing a really good job on the more mobile parts of the battlefield, but here in the middle, it's a little bit less sure. Having said that, though, it looks like Azazel did kill the Jade War Drum just in no time flat. Really nicely done. I'm sure the Fiends did well for themselves against it. Also, they're nasty units and a fat final transmutation. Is this overcasted? You bet your ass it is. Xiao Ming absolutely icing the Slaaneshi forces here, doing some disgusting damage to Azazel and the Fiends. Although the Devoted Marauder is technically what it was cast upon, and they did run out of combat at a very inopportune moment, taking some of the damage off at a critical moment, and Xiao Ming still standing in here with the Dune Dragons, who really haven't done too terribly hot, man. That's very unfortunate for Cathay. Cathay is starting to waver a little bit. We've got Jade Lancers going in against Fiends. Fiends, as opposed to Seekers, are much better against these cavalry units because there's one, there's fewer units that are getting hit by the cavalry all at once. The cavalry kind of awkwardly tend to surround units like this, and the Fiends, you know, especially if they don't get like drawn out into like a very spaghetti-lined formation, generally trade pretty nicely into cavalry because they have pretty good weapon strength, good AP, and decent stats, as well as debuffing with the Soporific Musk. So, ideal combat scenario for the Fiends. They trade very efficiently against Jade Lancers. Jade Lancers are much better at going after Seekers. But that's easier said than done because of how quick Slaanesh is. I will say, I'm giving the Slaaneshi player a lot of criticism, but I'm doing this out of love. I love my Chaos players. I want them to perform well. And Cathay is trading pretty efficiently here. This is usually a pretty bad matchup for Cathay, honestly. But doing a really nice job of getting value where possible.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Slaaneshi forces in some bow fire from the Bandits of the Silver Road. Oh my god. Never see these guys. But they're here this time. Peasant Horsemen and the Jade Lancers with the bow fire actually killing the Fiends pretty effectively there. I mean, Fiends obviously don't have armor, so they can be pretty squishy at times, and you don't need a lot to get those guys to crumbling. Once demonic instability kicks in and your demons are crumbling, it gets really ugly. Slaanesh, despite the values being pretty even, is a lot thinner on the battlefield in terms of numbers. Some Seekers are coming out. You got some tattered Hellscourge Marauders and some Chaos Warriors. They're all moving in here trying to do some good work. Peasant Horsemen missing their charge against the Seekers, which is very punishing for them. It's another reason why they're a little lackluster in this matchup. If they don't get the charge off, they get absolutely obliterated. If they do get the charge, they only lose horribly. That's all I'm going to say about that. I've harped on it enough at this point, I think. Bandits of the Silver Road being intercepted by Furies very nicely by Slaanesh. And, man, this game has been back and forth in the value trading so far. Incredibly even. Slaanesh with a big lead on points and tickets right now. Cathay has one objective in the middle. They've got some Jade Warrior Halberds there, some Jade Warriors going in against Devoted Marauders. Really good summon of some Hellstriders just to get out here and maybe get a good rear charge. And some Devoted Marauders with spears completely forgotten about in the trees. They could definitely be up in the middle here, maybe forcing a little bit more of a response out from Cathay there. Chaos Warriors fighting against the Halberds here. And the Furies did a good job of breaking the Bandits of the Silver Road, man. Not giving them an opportunity to value trade. And getting a decent rear charge on the Jade Lancers. And maybe now they'll pile in on the rear of these Halberds. That's honestly where they'd be best. They're going after the Crowmen here, which isn't a bad idea. The Crowmen are kind of caught up by the Seekers, but Seekers are going to do a good enough job of dealing damage to these guys while most of this unit is on the ground that they're probably going to crumble out, because it's worth remembering that these are elemental units. They do have the same profile as the demonic units when it comes to crumbling. The Furies could just rear charge these Halberds, ice those guys, and then they could follow up with the Chaos Warriors, get rear charges on this Halberd unit, and just finish this fight and keep this objective fully secured for the Slaaneshi forces here. But make it a little harder on themselves. We'll see where the Chaos Furies go. Decent enough Dragon Breath. It is on the Chaos Warriors, though. They've got really good armor. Dragon Breath is much better against like demonic units that have really low armor, especially on Slaanesh. Those Slaaneshi armor values basically non-existent. I mean, I guess that's what you get for worshipping a god that just basically wants you to be in the nude at all times, you know. We got some ancient, like, Greek and Roman stuff going on with these guys. Onyx Crowmen did get back up in the air, and they're not crumbling just yet, but they're at 1 leadership. They're basically going to land and crumble out immediately, but Azazel fixes that for them by hitting them in the air, and then they crumble out before they can land again. Pretty funny stuff, honestly. The Furies, they can definitely land and help out against these Peasant Horsemen. Peasant Horsemen continuing to feed into Seekers, man. Not the way for those guys, and Grand Cathay is going to throw in the towel there. Slaanesh doing a very good job of winning the flank engagements, trading really poorly in the middle, and I was a little worried that Slaanesh would get hyper-fixated on the middle, but doing enough to work down the Cathayan forces in the middle, and then taking advantage of their thinness there to get rid of the Jade War Drum. And from that point, without a position to anchor on, Grand Cathay is not going to beat Slaanesh. That's just my opinion. Grand Cathay has to have objectives and force you into them and respond to their cannons and missiles in order to be victorious in Dom, and they did not get an opportunity to do that this game. So Slaanesh, very well played. Few things that you can even out for sure, but I really loved everything overall. All right. Dwarves versus Bretonnia, man. Let's see this. It's been a long time since I've seen Bretonnia have to fight the Dowie. This is a really tough matchup for Bretonnia. Even back to, Warhammer 2 days. Foot Squires, they can trade upwards pretty decently, but Dowie infantry are very good at dealing with these guys. Just by sheer numbers, there is a lot of good shooting for the Dowie. Also, they can do some pretty good work. Bretonnia Knights tend to struggle for the same reasons that other cavalry-centric factions tend to struggle against other ranged factions. In that cavalry are great when they're fighting stuff in the open field, but when they're going up against very infantry-centric factions that have a lot of shooting, they just don't trade nearly as well. Cavalry, they lack a little something when it comes to getting, charge damage against infantry. For whatever reason, they can kind of wet noodle against them at times. If you're getting good rear charges, it's completely different because you're breaking leadership and then you can chase down the routing units, but otherwise, kind of like using the mounted yeoman here to go cap this number 3 before the Dowie can get up on it. We've got some miners in the trees there. And Spearman at Arms going to secure that number 1 point. Number 2 point going to be secured by Bretonnia and the Hero Squad. Probably going to be anchoring here as well. Just going to form a nice big battle line. I wouldn't count on trying to hold the number 3 here. Dowie are going to out-trade Bretonnia anywhere they go, because of the superior infantry and ranged units. Very much not worth it for the Dwarves, or for Bretonnia to try and contest this number 3 objective. They're going to want to hold on the number 2 and 1 and try and use the Bretonnia Knights and other such units to intercept reinforcements, and then just slowly choke the Dowie core to death. That's basically the idea here. That's usually how Bretonnia is going to win, especially in Dom. Obviously in Conquest and in land battles, it's going to play out a lot differently. I imagine that Conquest and land battles, probably even a little bit tougher for Bretonnia to win that. At least in domination mode, it's objective-based, and you can, summon in answers to a lot of Dowie units. Mounted Yeoman, they're looking to get back, not holding the number 3. Never really capped it either, which is unfortunate, but the Bretonians, they're going to get a nice little lead. They did get some early tickets from the middle cap here before the number 3 was taken. Mounted Yeoman did slow down the progress there. And Bretonnia really doesn't have to do anything right now. Long-drawn Slayers are really the only missile out right now, other than the Grimdelvers, who are in the backfield here, slowly inching their way forward. We got some miners with blasting charges here. Honestly, I think the best place for them to go is just right up to the number 1 and blow up these Spearmen at Arms, because these Spearmen are all alone. They're the only thing holding that point. Miners have good cap weight. They've got full cap weight, so, they're pretty cheap. Just throw both of these guys in there. Take that objective, and then Bretonnia's got to send some of their actual important units like Hippogriffs to sweep up garbage like that, and you can value trade a much better in the frontline fight. Rapont's taking an ugly fight here against Ungrim Iron Fist and the double Dragon Slayer. She's going to be getting back though, probably going to be okay. She's going to get next to Felix, and hopefully they can buff one another up enough to where she doesn't get killed here in the early going. Oh my goodness. Continuing to take nasty damage. She's got to get out of there. She is broken. She's probably going down here, guys. This is going to be a catastrophic loss to the Bretonnians. Oh my god. Surviving on to 25 health until she gets hit one more time, and down goes Rapunzel. And that's a lot of leadership to lose for a faction that's got pretty poor leadership to begin with. The Iron Drakes with the Trollhammer torpedoes. I forgot about these guys, man. 28 models, and they've got some big buffs, and they're really nice now. They've got pretty good bonus versus large. One volley, and they took about 25% of the health off of the Royal Hippogriff Knights here. Which is really nice for the dwarves. The Hippogriffs do wreck these dwarf warriors with a good rear charge. It's going to come down to some pretty hardcore micro for Bretonnia to get back in this. Mounted Yeomen getting absolutely obliterated by the Grim Delvers here. Those Grudge Rakers are some nasty work, man. And these guys fire pretty quick, too. They got the reload reduction time as an ROR, so every 9.8 seconds as opposed to 13 is when they're firing in, getting good work done. Royal Peg Knights, just regular old Pegasus Knights, looking to get after, they're going in after the Grim Delvers, so Iron Drakes, if they don't have any better targets, yeah, it does look like the Dowie player is going to be turning the attention of the Iron Drake torpedoes and getting after the Pegasus Knights, who are getting absolutely massacred. And I don't know how much longer this game is going to go. I mean, you lost your Lord, your Hippogriff Knights have gotten shot up pretty badly. They're down to less than half health. Pegasus Knights are dead already. That's like a 1,000 gold unit. They're routing off the battlefield, and the Dowie are going to just ruin your day on this middle objective at this point. The Foot Squires and the Battle Pilgrims are trading reasonably effectively here, but the superior leadership of the Dowie is just going to eventually prevail here, I think. And we'll see if there's any way for Bretonnia to take this game back. As I predicted, you know, Debiel doing a really nice job of scooting up out here with the miners and just for free blowing up this Spearman at Arms, and it forces a Knights Errant to swing its attention out here on this flank rather than being able to support the middle and get after these ranged units that are available for the dwarves, which is definitely a painful moment after you've lost so much already. So we're going to fast forward through this mass rout for the Bretonnians all across the battlefield. Really painful. You hate to see it, man. But, I mean, this is kind of the tale of the tape from back in the day for what happened to Dowie in a lot of matchups against the dwarves, where Dowie just brought out like a nice missile line with some slayers, and
Unending glory is
if
yours.
the Bretonnian player didn't engage properly and with like perfect micro and timing, then you just kind of lost. That's kind of what happened here. So very unfortunate to be running into the dwarves on the old bracket like this. 1700 on Ungrim Iron Fist here, man. He's a brutal duelist. He is so strong. I think he's probably the best of the legendary lords right now for the dwarves, just because, I mean, he's a slayer, he's unbreakable, and he's got some really strong abilities that buff him up to where he just gets into like astronomical amounts of damage that he can do in a very short period of time, as you just saw against Rapunzel, who's in her own right one of the best foot duelists in the game. So that really tells you something about how capable he is. And that's not even, and that's against a foot character where his bonus versus large doesn't even come into play. So yeah, crazy stuff from the Dowie there. Very dominant performance. Chaos Dwarves versus Vampire Counts. I would imagine, oh man, who's favored in this? Chaos Dowie have really good shooting, yes, but they're pretty vulnerable to mobile factions, and the Vampire Counts are incredible at playing the mobility game, quite frankly. Mostly because of Vargeists, and Chaos Dwarves, I don't really feel like there's anything that good at answering Vargeists on their roster. Bull Centaurs are pretty seriously grounded, obviously, and they're very expensive. I don't really think it's worth trying to use Bull Centaurs to counter Vargeists, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see from Christopher's what the deal is. He is bringing a Kadai Destroyer, which is a fun unit to bring. We've got a, whatchamacallit, Demon Smith Prophet here on the Bale Taurus. No, just on a Great Taurus, actually. But, you know, Chalice of Blood and Darkness. Gonna give him some nice heals. Manfred von Karstein here.
Keep it from the
Manfred
foe.
probably doesn't want to take this fight, in all honesty. This guy's gonna have some great healing over the course of the game. Does have flaming attacks to mitigate healing as well. And has the same melee attack as Manfred has melee defense. And a really good land here from Christopher's. Doing a good job of getting on the ground, but Dak Ninja doesn't take the bait and land on top of the Kadai Destroyer. Pulls back with the great bald one here. Just retreating a little bit and giving himself an opportunity to move his main force up and contest the objective. Doesn't want to give it over for free. Vampire count's obviously pretty slow, and don't want to get behind on the tickets early in the early going for sure. Necromancer on the corpse card, actually. Moving up with a bunch of zombies and skeletons. Maybe going to go for a cheeky bat cap. That's going to be worth paying attention to later in the game. More zombies and skeleton spears moving up. Dire wolves maneuvering around out here. The Mortis engine taking a little bit of damage in the early going from the wolf raiders and hobgoblin archers, I think. So, decent stuff in the early going from Christopher's. Not panicking and, you know, throwing everything into the front line here. That tends to be the worst possible way you can play into vampire counts. But people, for whatever reason, and this includes me, sometimes panic against the undead and just think you have to get in there and just ferociously grind into them. That tends to be the worst possible outcome. Can play the mobility game decently against the vampire counts if you know what you're doing, at least in terms of going to like bat cap objectives. Just because vampire counts, you know, they do need because of the lack of capture weight on the zombies and skeletons. They tend to want to keep all of their infantry on one point so that they can actually hold something down, and they tend to rely on using superior mobility to try and keep stuff off of their back points. But if you're smart, you can take like a Wolf Raider or two and just come out and capture this and then just run away. And then you've got like Blood Knights and Vargeist just fruitlessly chasing you around the battlefield. And the more time you're spending drawing the aggro of Blood Knights and Vargeist without giving them any value that they can, you know, trade into, the better you are doing for yourself. Kadai Fireborn moving up against these dire wolves. Pretty interesting little unit to have sent out here. I think Christopher's knew that there was a Necromancer and a bunch of garbage moving up out here. So I do like bringing out the Kadai Fireborn as your first summon to resecure this objective. More Kadai Fireborn coming in deep into the unholy abominations of metal. Look at these guys, man. They're such a cool unit. I'm going to pause it for a minute just to get a good close-up of them. They're just so gross and sickly looking, man. But they do some great work in melee combat, obviously. Absolutely obliterating the dire wolves here, who get 40 value in return. Good stuff. Mortis Engine getting shot to pieces by the hobgoblin archers, and the vampire counts... Dak Ninja not doing enough here to compromise the missile line. He's sending all of these units back here to try and do what exactly? Cap this back objective, which is a good idea in theory. But once you see a hard counter to chaff like Kadai Fireborn coming out, and then you've got the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders that are shooting down the corpse cart and can respond pretty capably back here, there's no reason to keep pursuing this avenue as an objective. You should just throw all those zombies around the flank and force the Chaos Dwarves to just spread out along a wider and wider front until you can get something to punch through the middle, and then you can just sweep everything up from that point. That's probably the best thing you can do, because as it stands, man, these Hobgoblins are just racking the value up. Look at these guys. Almost 800 value on these dudes already. Oh my god, and counting. Disgusting stuff, man. Manfred landing in the back here. The Mortis engine goes down to the Khedai Fireborn, which has about 311 value. Nothing incredible, but not bad. Getting a heal from the Chalice of Blood and Darkness here. The Demon Smith Prophet just laughing in Hashut. Wrecking Manfred right now. Absolutely brutalizing him with the fire damage and the weaknesses that are being imbued by Kindle Flame. Only has Burning Head, but that Burning Head's been putting in some serious work on a lot of dead zombies and the like, and getting some nice value here. Just fighting against that guy, weakening down all these units, and giving the Hobgoblin Archers an opportunity to continue trading favorably without having to worry about the old Baldstein getting after them. What's going on out here? We've got Blood Knights trading pretty well into Khedai Fireborn and the Wolf Raiders.
Tidings. The enemy has
Not the
captured
worst
one
fight
of your
for them,
victory
honestly.
points.
I mean, they are designed to counter units exactly like this, but more Khedai Fireborn getting into combat against them, they're going to get overwhelmed eventually. They do really need some buffering in order to continue trading efficiently here. They do get that in the form of the Skeleton Spears here. The Vampire Counts do take this back objective, but, man oh man, these Vargeists. Vargeists could have been out here earlier. The Blood Knights could have been going in against the Hobgoblin Archers, because, you know, Blood Knights are much faster than the Khedai Fireborn. 54 versus 70 speed. And, you know, Blood Knights have an incredible shock damage, so they could have just got in here for free against the Hobgoblin Archers and just iced each unit in succession pretty easily, I imagine. No guarantees, of course, as with anything that I suggest in these games, but I think that would have been a better course of action than continuing to all in on this back point that you're not going to hold for much longer, honestly. Manfred and the Vargeist, though, are a very dangerous, like, blob. But they're like, no, don't land on the Chaos Dwarf Warriors. Please go and get the Hobgoblin Archers. I don't know if Dak Ninja is aware of just how much value these Hobgoblin Archers are getting. I mean, these guys only cost 425 gold, and they've all pretty much paid for themselves. These ones twice over, at least, which is just absurd. There's no reason these guys should be doing as well as they are. They have terrible leadership, and they're pretty easy to deal with if you're playing as the Vampire Counts, honestly. Dak Ninja's kind of just playing into the hands of the Chaos Dowie here, evening up the value a little bit, but Blood Knights are so low back here. Manfred's incredibly low. There's going to be a lot of healing that's needed to start getting back in this game, and with all of these Vargeists being summoned in the mid, oh my god, that Gaze of Nagash was incredible. Did some really nasty damage to the Prophet here. But with all of the Vargeists and everything, as I was saying, being up in the sky and being the mid-game summons, we've got Chaos Dwarf Warriors who are just going to move up onto the number 1, probably start capping it for free here. I would even go so far as to just move another Chaos Dwarf Warrior over here, because superior cap weight, you're going to be able to hold it for quite a while against zombies and the like. And, you know, Graveguard with great weapons are great and all, but they're pretty slow. 27 speed, it's going to take them some time to get over there. We've got the Vargeists. They're getting in against the Khedai Fireborn, doing some good damage, man. This is the kind of stuff that should have been happening a little bit earlier in the game, I would say. And certainly needed to clean up those Hobgoblin Archers, but the Chaos Dowie really aren't following up their early value lead advantage as aggressively as they could be, honestly. They've kind of left the Vampire Counts to their own devices on this point, the number 3 objective here. They're just letting these reinforcements walk past them for free. There's no reason not to be going after this stuff. The Khedai Destroyer has 9,400 HP. It can go in and get on top of this corpse cart. Hobgoblins can push up and shoot those Graveguard while they're just trundling past. There's nothing to stop that from happening. There's nothing to threaten the Hobgoblin Archers, really, other than the Vargeists And you do have a decent number of units back here to protect those guys. I mean, I can't help but feel like Christopher's maybe outplaying himself a little bit here. Kadai, Fireborn have been dealt with. They did a good job against the Vargeist. One Vargeist is going to dissipate and crumble off the battlefield. Blood Knights really need a heal. Vampire Counts, man, I mean, they can conceivably do something here. Do heal up the White King and the Vargeist here. This one's still going to crumble out regardless. I mean, it's just too low HP and low leadership. But the other one's going to appreciate the heal. Manfred getting a nice heal as well. He's going to appreciate that. Could have pulled the Blood Knights into that as well for a heal, but doing a good enough job with the value on that invo. Wolf Raiders, Goblin Laborers, and Warriors here looking to square up against some zombies and Dire Wolves. Mortis Engine coming out of the spawn point now, and I'm stunned to say it, but Dak Ninja's kind of back in this game. It kind of seems like Christopher's has just given up on retaking the number 3, which is kind of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, honestly. I mean, could have, like I said, could have just been pushing forward the Hobgoblin Archers to shoot stuff as it was walking past, and I mean, come on, just get aggressive. Start splitting this army up, you know? You've got a decent core of durable units here that can go in and start fixing the zombies and skeletons here that are still on that point in position, and then use the Hobgoblin Archers to shoot down the Corpse Carts. You know, Corpse Carts are very weak to shooting. They have 45 armor, and they have a weakness to fire damage because of the regen. So, Christopher's, if you're watching this, man, I respect the hell out of you, and you should respect the hell out of yourself, because you're in the dominant position up to this point. You really definitely could have been doing a little bit more with your time, in my opinion. The Prophet landing on the ground, trying to get some assistance from the Kadai Destroyer, but breaks. Oh, that's so unlucky. Is Christopher is going to be able to salvage this game at this point, because the Vampire Counts have started to retake the number 1 objective, moving the Mortis Engine and the zombies up, and there's nothing here that's going to be able to fight against that. So they're going to get that objective back, and they've had the number 3 for a long time, and they're so close in points, man. Devastating stuff for the Chaos Dowie here, man. But the Prophet does rally. That's a big, big lucky break for Christopher's here. Going to be able to take something to maybe start resecuring some positions. Just not bringing enough forward to answer these units, honestly. Blazing Beards of Basharak have gotten a lot of damage done to them. Not 100% sure by what. I did miss that. Probably just fighting against Graveguard and Vargeist and the like. Vargeist have been doing really nicely. Well, maybe not as nicely as I thought they would have been. Man, oh man. The Manfred von Baldstein, 2,800 value. Seems like he's the one doing the big, heavy lifting here. And we've got Crypt Horrors moving up into the middle point here. Hobgoblin's finally shooting at something, doing a lot of damage to Manfred. I do suppose preserving ammo on these guys and using them aggressively to push off Manfred is nice, but can turn and shoot these Crypt Horrors for free now and just kill those pretty quickly. But Kadai Destroyer might be able to get it done himself. Definitely a very capable fighter against monstrous infantry. That seems to be what it does best at, is fighting monstrous infantry. It's not very good against SEs for whatever reason. I just don't understand this thing. Sometimes it seems like it does well, other times it seems like a complete waste of space on the roster. Definitely needs to get looked at for performing more consistently and whatnot, but nice Burning Head. There we go. That's how you get back in this game. Finally doing enough to start clearing out some of the pressure on the number 3 here.
One of your units has been destroyed. Objective.
Vampires have been allowed to sit around in this game for way too long. They are evening up the numbers. Oh my god. And Blood Knights. 15. These Blood Knights have been absolute heroes, man. 2,100 value on them, and they sneak out of the formation and get on top of the Prophet and just finish him off. And without the leadership, the Hobgoblins are going to start routing pretty quickly. Chaos Dwarf Warriors are going to hold a lot less effectively. And I'm starting to get really worried for the Chaos Dwarves, man. They do have a bit of a lead, but Vampire Counts, of course, have incredible healing. And they hold the advantage on objectives. The double cap is going to get into really dangerous territory for the Chaos Dowie real soon here. Kadai Fireborn doing their best here, man. They've been doing pretty decently this game, but getting charged down by this big dragon. Manfred, with a decent amount of health left, he's definitely going to be able to get some Winds of Magic with the Sword of Unholy Power here. Good recharge rate, obviously, but he's probably about out. He's probably coasting off of the reserve charges that he's getting from the sword here for the most part. And we'll see what happens, man. 1,200 to 1,090 right now. Christopher's still within range. Definitely within range. Vampires moving up from the number 1, and good focus fire with the Hobgoblin Archers, man. These guys have been MVPs all game. Each side kind of blundering their own way through this game, honestly. Direwolves could be getting after these Hobgoblins here. I don't know what Direwolves are going to do against these blunderbusses, honestly. The real damage that's going in on the Cryptars, who would be fine in that engagement otherwise, is the Hobgoblin Archers, and you can shut down 2 of them with 1 Direwolf because of how closely packed in they are. So, good stuff. Good focus fire from Christopher's, but Dak Ninja missing an opportunity there for sure. Manfred flying around up top, and the middle of, or the number 3 objective is finally retaken by the Chaos Dwarves here. Big plays. Finally taking full advantage there and getting that back. Maybe going to get the Chaos Dowie in a winning position. I don't know if it's a triple cap range. I'm not doing the math. I just refuse. We're going to have to see how it plays out from here, because honestly, this is either player's game. Vampire Counts have proven their willingness to play risky, and Christopher's is proven his willingness to kind of just let them do whatever they want in terms of the mobility game, and not being very aggressive. And the Hobgoblin bows are all out of ammo now, so we'll see if the Vampire Counts are going to be able to maybe make a play for the middle now, because there's really not a lot here without those archers to provide fire. You've got like some blunderbusses that are running around out here, Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders, and some Chaos Dwarf Warriors over here, with the Kadai Destroyer doing nicely. But Christopher's definitely finally making a really good decision here in terms of the objective play. Getting up on the number 1 for free right now, where the Vampire Counts do not have a great presence. Direwolves coming out of the Vanguard. Definitely going to do some nice damage to the Hobgoblins, but they might not be able to get there in time. The Hobgoblins are going to have superior cap weight. And, you know, Christopher is continuing to commit more stuff here, which is a good call. Definitely going to do him some big favors here. And holding on to the number 3, number 1, and I think that the Chaos Dowie are going to be able to take this game as long as they don't... now, don't give up on this objective. Don't do it, please. Should have just fully committed here. I mean, there's nothing going to the number 2 right now. I mean, the entire roster for the Vampire Counts, for whatever reason in the late game, is just slowly walking onto this back objective still. They don't have the cap weight yet, and I don't think they'll even have enough once all this stuff arrives, because you gotta remember that zombies and skeletons have terrible cap weight. They've got that expendable cap weight of 2. Hobgoblin Archers actually have full cap weight. I didn't know that, so just these 2 units alone outcapping quite a few of these Vampire Counts units that are moving up on here. This is, oh my god, it's so close, but the triple cap does finally go in. The Direwolves are getting manhandled by the Kadai Destroyer right now. This thing actually doing pretty nicely for itself. Christopher's really loves bringing that particular unit and actually makes some pretty good effect out of it, honestly. And yeah, that's going to be a razor close win from the Chaos Dowie there. Really well played by Christopher's, but definitely could have made the game a little easier on himself. Just laying back a little too long, I think, with the advantage that he got early. I mean, he was up over 3,000 value at one point, and the vampire counts were just really tattered across the battlefield, but just letting all those reinforcements walk past him without getting aggressive on the corpse carts and the grave guard, who didn't have anything to mitigate the hobgoblin archer play, I think was a big mistake. It definitely let the counts get back into that game, so definitely just can't take your opponents for granted. Dak Ninja did a really good job of getting back in there, so you gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. Alright, we did watch that game already. I think so, and was them playing in the bracket, but I'm pretty sure this is the semifinals game between them. I have cast that already. Go check out the tournament cast from yesterday if you want to see it. Grand Cathay versus Bretonia we've seen. Slaanesh versus Tomb Kings. I don't think we've seen this one. I'm curious to see how Safari Jack plays this matchup. Not a bad matchup for the Tomb Kings at all. They're pretty good against Slaanesh just because of the durability that the undead have in general against demons. Demons tend to perform better against mortal factions than they do against undead. And Safari Jack was our winner from this tournament. But is he going to prevail over Pep? Pep is a very capable demon focused player. So we'll see. Azazel starting out on the ground, actually. Not 100% sure why. Just landing him in the early going. Maybe just to keep him a little more hidden, I guess. I don't know. Devoted Marauders, Prince of Perfection, Chaos Furies, Mirror Guard Fiends, more Furies, Seekers, all the goodies, all the usual suspects that you'll see from Slaanesh. Chosen of the Gods, lots of spears, some Nehekara Warriors, Ushabti, Arkan, and a Necrotect, as well as some Horse Archers, and Carrion coming out as the first summon for the Tomb Kings. Also, the usual suspects in return. Very meta builds for both sides. Chosen of the Gods getting some good shots on the Furies, actually. Taking about a third of their health off, and that's going to make it pretty easy for them to get picked apart wherever they end up landing, because they are incredibly squishy. They don't have a tremendous amount of health, and being down to about half, you can see their leadership is already below a safe point for them, honestly, you know. I mean, they only have 50, down to 22. Looking really dangerous already for the forces of Slaanesh, trading a lot of value here from these guys, but Spirit Leech kind of being wasted on these Furies. Spirit Leech just does not do a lot of damage against multi-model targets. It used to be a little bit better because it would actually kill models in the unit, but I think that the way they reworked it for Warhammer 3, it doesn't work quite as effectively in that regard. The Carrion do a really good job of countercharging and keep them off of the Chosen of the Gods, and that is 650 gold. Pretty poorly spent for the forces of Slaanesh here, unfortunately. Carrion getting after Azazel. They do take up a vein, and they are rampaged onto the ground, where Pep does get a really good side charge with the Furies now.
One of your units
much better
has been
trade.
Destroyed.
Hellstrider's getting a little too aggressive. They don't need to be all the way back there. They're not going to win that trade against the Nehekara Horsemen, I don't think. We'll see. Either way, they're well within the range of the Chosen of the Gods, who are really going to start punishing all these blobbed up units here. You really don't want to be doing this as Slaanesh. Could have pulled out here and used the Seekers to get around the back and force the Skeleton Spears to continually reposition. And I think the Seekers and the Furies would be better served trying to get on the Chosen of the Gods here. These Furies getting kited out and charged down by the Nehekara Horsemen. Pep going on a little bit too split. I like the aggressive play, and I think it can definitely work. But what you really need to do is you need to gather everything up, and you need to pick a target to go after specifically. Instead of going in piecemeal across the battlefield, like he's kind of doing here, just find one particular formation that you want to get rid of, preferably something that's a little bit more immobile that you can more fully surround, since, you know, Slaanesh does have devastating flanker. Focus on dealing with that particular, like, formation or unit, and then bounce out and try and deal with any responding mobility pieces. Because the Carrion and the Skeleton Horse Archers, they're nice and all, but they're not like a heavy, hard-hitting unit that's gonna like do catastrophic damage to the forces of Slaanesh. Like, Seekers are just miles and miles better than Skeleton Horse Archers in melee combat. So if the Skeleton Horse Archers want to charge into melee to try and salvage their brethren, they can try, but it's not going to go very well for them. Slaanesh is going to out-trade them there. But committing piecemeal like this and not really focusing up your units and getting overwhelming alpha strikes, very much a situation where you're going to get punished by a very experienced player. And Safari Jack, their first tournament, and they have come in and proven their prowess as a player. Doing a really good job of keeping these Skeleton Spears on top of the Chosen of the Gods. You know, that takes somebody with some forethought and advanced planning to be able to make sure that they're keeping their very expensive units well buffered. And this is pretty perfect, honestly. You've got the Horse Archers counter-firing the Fiends, as well as these Fiends getting poked down by Skeleton Spears, which is just probably the most... This is probably the most cost-effective trade of all time. This is the best trade deal of all time, guys. Fiends fighting against Skeleton Spears. 543 value on these Skeleton Spears, and Fiends really haven't gotten much of anything done, man. Fiends are an X-Factor unit, but they cannot be sent willy-nilly into the combats that they have been sent into. They have got to be getting rear charges, and they've got to be focusing down stuff like Ushabti. These Ushabti, you know, they could have been supporting, the Fiends could have been supporting the Mirror Guard this entire time. Instead, the Mirror Guard are out here being torn apart by the Ushabti, and the Necrotect, who's giving the Wrath of the Creator buff, as well as the heals with the Restore. And Vaporize of the Sun debuffing the melee attack and melee defense enough to where the Ushabti are just performing way better than they normally would if they were just alone. So Safari Jack just took that combo of the Necrotex and Ushabti so far in this tournament. And I really hope that people are paying attention, because I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of him in future tournaments. Probably taking some games against some really experienced players based on what I've seen so far. Zazel doing a really good job of shutting down the Chosen of the Gods. This is the kind of stuff you want to be doing with them. Pep playing very well with his Lord, just letting himself down a little bit elsewhere on the battlefield, in my opinion. Overextending, not focusing up and bringing in overwhelming numbers into the right positions at the right time. And committing himself a little too piecemeal, and that's going to cost him this game for sure. Tomb King's in a dominant position right now. Ushabti summon absolutely obliterating these Hellscourge Marauders. Chosen of the Gods shooting down these spears, and do get caught up a little bit, which is unfortunate.
One of your units has been destroyed.
They've got good enough armor that they're going to be able to get away. And Azazel getting bogged down a little bit by Carrion and spears, but is focusing in, going after the Chosen of the Gods now, who are helping finish off some more Hellscourge Marauders, and the Slaaneshi forces are just continually getting gashed over and over again by just superior numbers and more efficiently positioned units. I'm telling you, man, I mean, positioning is 90% of domination mode. If you are making the right macro decisions, then you really don't even have to micro all that much, you know. I would go so far as to say that 90% of Dom is macro decision making. Where you're putting units, what units you're summoning, when you're using them, very important to consider as well. You don't want to just throw Fiends into Skeleton Spears. As you saw earlier, they got kind of picked apart by those guys. If you had kept the Fiends in with the Mirror Guard, you could have probably pushed through that middle fight a little bit better. Maybe isolated the Necrotect for Azazel to land and deal with him while you use the Fiends and the Mirror Guard to go push Chosen of the Gods or something. Something along those lines and scenarios like that are what make the big difference. You want to make the game as easy on yourself as possible, and just try and keep your opponent from having any easy ends. And Safari Jack doing a really good job of that. Taking the number 1, number 2, and number 3. I'm going to keep fast forwarding through this because the match is continuing to get thinner and thinner on the ground. Old Arkin here doing a good job summoning some skeletons, saving his own ass just barely, casting a really good Fate of Buna on those Furies, completely icing that unit. Man, his Arkin play is so good. He continually got, in all of the games I watched of Safari Jack playing, pretty much always got Arkin over 2,000 value. This is probably the worst I've seen Safari Jack do with Arkin. But a lot of that does have to do with the fact that Azazel is just a ridiculous combatant and is very much doing a very good job of focusing him down, but doesn't even manage to get the Bony Boy.
I knew it.
Unlucky.
Unending glory.
Really dominant performance from Safari Jack there. And Pep definitely going to have to reconsider some of the broader strategic decisions there in order to come back with a more effective build, I think. 1,500 on those Ushabti. Great bows paying for themselves just about. Really good value on the horse archers. These are really cheap units, by the way. They're 475 gold in total. And once they're done firing their bows off, they can get in and go fisticuffs. And they're not great in melee combat, but they do have the advantage of being cavalry and being able to choose when and where they take engagements. And they can get some good rear charges and break leadership, or they can go in and just deal with chaff units. You know, rear charge Furies and the like, stuff like that. Usually ends up paying pretty nicely for them. Alright, guys. I think that might be about it for the games that we've got. I think I might have 1 or 2 more of the replays that I haven't done yet. And then I'll probably be gone. I'm going to go paint more of my Astra Militarum once I'm done here. But welcome, welcome. Pretty small stream tonight, but that's okay. I appreciate everybody who's showing up here. Good to see you, Fabrosi. I think I streamed one of your other games that I missed earlier in the day. The Coast versus Coast Showdown. You played it really well. I loved the patience that you showed in pushing back in and contesting the objectives at the end there. And getting that like razor close triple cap. That was pretty sick. Huge plays there. So let's see, Dak Ninja versus Rank Killer. I don't think I've done this one, so Bretts versus Counts. We've seen Bretts versus Cathay. Anything else that we haven't seen? I don't think I cast this game, so we'll do this one as well, and Chaos Dwarves versus Korn. I kind of want to watch this one as well, so we'll probably do 3 more games. And then we'll be done for the night. So, Bretts versus Vampire Counts, Chaos Dowie versus Korn, and then Dowie Greenskins, I think is going to be what'll round us out here. So, Dak Ninja versus Rank Killer. I love Dak Ninja's Vampire Counts play, and we watched him almost grind back into a match where he got a really bad start. And did a very good job of taking advantage of his opponent, giving up a lot of battlefield initiative. So I'm curious to see how he does against Bretonia here. And Bretonia's coming in with a wild-ass build. I have no idea what the hell this even is. There's no way this is 9,000 gold in total, is it? I'm going to have to go and check this. This is kind of insane. Rank Killer coming in with, what, 9 units in total? I mean, don't get me wrong, they're pretty decent units. I mean, the Green Knight, Lewin, a Damsel, and a Unicorn, I presume. Yeah, that's a Unicorn. And Men-at-Arm Polearms with a Grell Relique, and the Holy Wardens backing it all up. And one-mounted Yeoman Archer, which isn't too terribly bad in this matchup, truthfully. Definitely going to be able to provide some bow fire, poke at the corpse carts and the mortis engines, which are very important to deal with. Mortis engines are disgusting. They're so strong. And yeah, White King's going to be moving up to the number 1 with a zombie escort. Vlad and the mortis engine with a, guess what, more zombies and skeletons. Who would have thought? Moving up onto the middle, while some more zombies and 1 grave guard. Triple chevron, or 6 chevrons. Good grief. Sextuple chevron graveguard moving up onto the number 3 objective. So Vampire Coast looking to take some very aggressive positions here. And honestly, the White Kings are going to trade very nicely into this core of Bretonnian units. Do they have Scab's Graith? They do indeed. They're going to absolutely obliterate these men-at-arms polearms then. And I do imagine this is an incredibly difficult matchup for Bretonnia. Bretonnia is definitely going to need the Green Knight and Lewin to carry here. And the Green Knight, I mean, he's got a passive heal while he's in forests. He can just run up in here and start road blocking stuff. See if maybe your opponent is foolish enough to try and deal with them while he's getting that passive heal off. But circling around to get after the Mortis engine. Lewin also looking to get after this thing, which is a pretty good call. The Vampire Counts don't have enough mobile answers for these 2 units yet. They do have some Cryptars for mass, but they're a little out of position.
We have a victory
Blood
point.
Knights
Keep
and
it from the foe.
Vargeist are going to be the ticket to dealing with these 2. Mortis Engine definitely needs to run, gets hit pretty hard. What is going on here? Wait, I didn't know that the Green Knight had the Frostbite effect. That's pretty cool. So definitely taking good advantage of that, and the Green Knight is just hounding this Mortis engine into the Shadow Realm right now. Lewin getting a little trapped up by the zombies, but continuing his efforts here. And the Mortis engine needs to actually peel around and back through the Cryptors and its own lines, because the Green Knight has the superior mobility and speed on this thing right now, and can just chase it, continually chase it down in the open field here. Definitely a big mistake. Always, always know where your own units are. There we go. That's the kind of thing that you need to do if you're kiting with a slower unit, is try and pull it back through your own lines and drag the quicker enemy units into either mass or just hordes of garbage like zombies. You know, that's pretty perfect. So maybe going to salvage this Mortis engine. It does get an invo, and its leadership is stabilizing. Vlad, though, very out of position. Definitely needs to push up. And a little bit of a falsely inflated value right now. I mean, certainly getting the damage on the Mortis engine is amazing, but it is going to passively heal over time. It's a lot safer with the Cryptors around it now. Lewin and the Green Knight are going to have a little bit of a harder time getting in there now. And White Kings, man, they're going to start trading real nicely over here against Rail Reliques and Men-at-Arms. Men-at-Arms, you know, pretty mediocre leadership. They're getting the benefits from the Rail Relique, which is keeping them in this combat pretty nicely. But if they get hit by a good enough Scab's Graith, they just get a couple more of those off. It's not really going to matter at all for them. It's going to start looking really scary for Bretonnia, because they really are pretty heavily outnumbered on the battlefield. They're desperately scrapping right now just to hold on to 1 objective. And Bretonnia overcommitting a little bit. This is not the fight that Lewin and the Green Knight won, in my opinion. It's a little bit too hazardous for them. We do have Grail Guardians getting after Blood Knights. Really nice combat for the Grail Guardians. I think the Grail Knights would be a little bit better, but, you know, it is what it is. They're still just absolute raid bosses of units. I mean, 42 melee attack, 50 melee defense. Turning off the Lance Formation to give them the extra 8 melee defense, and they're going to just hound the Blood Knights to death at this rate. Blood Knights need to do what the Mortis engine was doing earlier and just peel through the Cryptors.
One of your units
Use
has
the
been
Cryptors to
destroyed.
fix the Grail Guardians in place, and then the Blood Knights can get some charges on them. It's the best idea. Knights of the Realm moving out. They're going to be looking to support the Grail Guardians. Some pretty good value from the Field Trebuchet, man. Great targeting here from Rank Killer. Getting some great value with that thing. And the White Kings continuing to grind away, man. There's really nothing out here to threaten them. Honestly, you see, this is why the Green Knight shouldn't have been sent in. He just got completely trapped up here, and he's getting beaten to death right now. He's getting a regrowth cast on him, but Vlad is probably going to kill this guy. He does have the magical attacks, courtesy of the Mortis engine, which is getting its vengeance here now. It survived. It's giving magical attacks to everything in this blob, and if there's one thing that the Green Knight is weak to, it is magical attacks, since he is ethereal. So, making a big mistake there as rank killer. The Green Knight, after the initial failure to get that Mortis engine, definitely needed to just disengage and go after the White Kings. Yeah, White Kings also have magical attacks, but with Lewin's help, and the fact that the vampire counts really don't have a tremendous amount of mobility out on the field, can definitely get better engagements over here than they can just diving into the middle of this hellacious blob here. Huge dwellers below coming in. It's going to do a lot of damage to these zombies, and even do a little bit to the crypt horrors, but not enough to be worth it. That's an incredibly expensive spell. And it has gotten nerfed, not recently, but not too terribly long ago, so not the nightmare it once was, where you would cast it and you would literally just delete entire formations. Rail Guardian's doing pretty nice here. They are on top of Crypt Horrors, which is not a tremendously ideal fight for them. These guys having the regen and just being just huge HP pools in general, fighting pretty effectively against the Grail Guardians right now. Where can Grail Guardians go? Just drawing on the battlefield aimlessly right now. They don't have a tremendous number of opportunities right now. Probably just need to get back here and help out against these Blood Knights and the Crypt Horrors. We got some fire arrows coming in. Good choice, but they're moving a little too close into combat. Need to... If you're going to use ranged units, it's very important to line them up properly, get good spacing on them, something like this, and get them focus firing where they're not going to get shut down by one well-placed unit. Because right now, if a Vargeist came in and just flew over the top of the Bretonnian formation here, and just landed right there on top of their heads, they would lose both of these units. Vargeists have nasty shock damage. But luckily that's not happening now, and getting some good bow fire against the Crypt Horrors. Still has a value lead. Definitely not out of this game. I know I'm giving Bretonnia a lot of grief right now, but a lot of that's mostly just because I want to give new players and, you know, people advice in general. Especially in these kind of high-pressure tournament scenarios, your brain is going a million miles a minute. I know from experience that's how I was for a long time. But if you just settle down and know where your opportunities are really at, you could have some dead White Kings out here. That would give you a really nice opportunity to push the middle from that point. Absolutely filthy Wind of Death, literally one-shotting this poor peasant bowman here. Holy. Dak Ninja with a great opportunity there and taking full advantage. 2,400 value on Vlad. Killing the Green Knight, absolutely icing two critically important counter units. The Crypt Horrors are incredibly weak to fire damage, and these bows, man, they're pretty accurate. They fire decently fast and have good range. So losing them is definitely going to put Bretonnia behind a bit. It's going to take them a lot longer now to clear out a lot of these units, and Bretonnia's losing the #1 objective here. As I imagined would happen if allowed to, the White Kings are just taking on all the men-at-arms pole arms. They killed the Holy Wardens of La Maison Tal as well. Just proving their prowess, man. These are the best units in the Vampire Count roster. I'm going to go that far and say they're that good. I love Crypt Horrors. I love Vargeists. Blood Knights have their applications, but White Kings are pretty much an auto-include, and they rarely disappoint. Scabscraith, one of the best chaff-clearing items in the game. And you can see Bretonnia the High King here, poor Lewin Leon Kerr, getting routed, losing his ward save, and now losing the Ladies Champion, so no more passive heals. Very reliant on the regrowths and Earthbloods now. And I don't know if he's going to be able to get functional enough to be able to carry this game like he really needs to. We do have a cap going in back here on the number 3 objective, Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, and Knights of the Realm taking it, but Skeleton Spears just wandering up for free onto these guys. Dak Ninja with some really good micro, and Rank Killer definitely needing to do a little bit more, a little bit quicker here. Not quite recognizing the opportunities that are being presented with him. He did a really good job of getting damage early on that Mortis engine, but like I said, once your initial dive onto that thing didn't work and the Vampire count started bringing out more mass and more units and doing a better job protecting that thing, needed to just jump over here and kill the White Kings, because now he's actually committing stuff over here, but the White Kings have done enough to clear more units than are being replaced by the Bretonnians, and now there are Cryptars and a lot of really durable infantry in the Graveguard, and it's just going to be hell trying to get through all that. It's the kind of fight that the Vampire Counts really want to take advantage of, and they're going to do a really nice job here of just holding this objective, probably. I mean, they have the point. And the Scab Scrays continuing to come in here and clear out these crappy peasants and men-at-arms, just not providing enough cap weight for Bretonnia. Those cap weight issues proving to be pretty serious right now. Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis getting some good damage on these Graveguard. Do need to definitely keep coming in and out with the Cycle Charging to get the best effect right now. And Holy Wardens moving up to clear out the Skeleton Spears, which I'll do a pretty good job of. And yeah, Rank Killer doing a good job of getting the Cycle Charges going here, but leaving the Grail Guardians to their devices a little bit. They have gotten incredible value, but I am afraid to report here that I don't think it's going to be enough. We've just got wave after wave of Cryptar moving in here, and this has got to be a hellish nightmare for these Bretonnian peasants, having to fight all of these unholy monstrosities and having the life sucked out of them by these beastly machines. Mortis Engine getting in here, and it's going to get some disgusting value now. Fighting in big blobs like this is where Mortis Engines shine, honestly. I guess it's a little obvious if you really think about it long enough, but you can see how quickly it's racking up value. It actually does pretty good against single entities. I mentioned this earlier in another game where Dak Ninja was playing, but Mortis Engines actually leech down single entities decently fast. You can see all of those like ticks of 3 to 4, 5 damage is from the Mortis Engine, and that's all racking up for the value, so you can think you're trading efficiently against a Mortis Engine with SEs and monstrous infantry and the like, but you're sometimes putting yourself in a deeper hole than you think you are. Peasant mobs running Bretonnia, pretty much on the verge of a complete and utter catastrophe here after a good early start and a good value lead. They're now behind, and that's never a good sign against Vampire Counts. Healing capped Cryptors, I mean, that's like 200 or 300 value of healing just right there. Mortis Engines and Corpse Carts providing more healing. Mortis Engine fully heal capped means that's probably about 800 heal value there. Cryptors, I mean, you get the idea. There's probably like 3,000 or 4,000 gold value worth of healing going in on the Vampire Counts units right now. Blood Knights coming out. They're going to answer the remaining Knights of the Realm. Grail Knights here doing a good job of getting a good side charge onto the Cryptors. Going to help deal with them. And probably do some good damage against the Blood Knights. Blood Knights do lose one-on-one against Grail Knights and Grail Guardians, just because of the AP these guys bring to the table. But they do get heals, so they can do pretty well, pretty reasonably also in those fights, if given the proper support. Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, very tattered. They're trying to get a little damage on the Skeleton Spears. Not going to be enough, and I'm going to fast forward through the rest of this game. Dak Ninja's in an absolutely overwhelmingly dominant position now. Lewin dead or fled off the battlefield. I'm not sure which. Doesn't really matter at this point either. Bretonnia slowly winding the clock down
One of your
here.
units has
Vampire
been
Counts have
destroyed.
a pretty commanding ticket lead as well. Bretonians not really playing the mobility game enough.
I knew
You know,
it.
I
Unending glory is
have
yours.
made the point that Vampire Counts are one of the most mobile factions in the game, funnily enough, but Bretonia is better. Simply put, you know, they've got Pegasus Knights, Royal Pegasus Knights, Hippogriffs, Grail Knights, just knights of any flavor that you want, you know. Taste the rainbow, if you will. So definitely needed to probably play a little bit more of a mobile strategy than ended up being what he went with. And I do love the hero core here, but just not using them effectively enough. You know, if you're going to bring big combat characters like this, you've got to get them into the proper fights. And they really did not ever find those scenarios in which they were trading favorably. And you counteract that with Dak Ninja getting Vlad into every possible scrap that he could find that was in front of him and getting 3,200 value. So there's the dichotomy, you know. Gotta make better use out of your dedicated combat heroes as Bretonia. Brett's vs. Cathay we've seen, and Korn versus Chaos Dowie. Incoming, man. This is a great matchup. I've played against Christopher's. Obviously, the Blood God is who I rep mainly. We had some pretty close games against one another, so I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to bring it out against Tima. Timmy was struggling a little bit on the Blood God. I sent him a couple replays to give him some advice. He said it helped a lot, so I'm hoping to see him repping them a little bit more often into the future. I want as many cultists as possible, honestly. I would like to inculcate as many people into the Blood God's favor as I possibly can. Oglacon's boys, Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders in the opening, Infernal Castellan. I really like the inclusion of the Infernal Castellan, honestly. We've got Draz Hoeth here. Lots of Chaos Dwarf Warriors, and what is this back here? Infernal Guard Fireglaves and an Infernal Ironsworn. Infernal Ironsworn are great in this matchup. For the most part, they're a little vulnerable to a couple of things. The thing that they really don't want to see used against them is Sleipnir. Their formation is incredibly compact, and this spell just does... Don't call it a spell, though. Blood God will get you, but... You know, it's a wind spell. It does obscene amounts of damage to tightly packed formations like this, so they're pretty vulnerable to it. They definitely don't want to get hit by it, but they're really good against demons. They absolutely annihilate Bloodletters. They don't do nearly as well against Exalted Bloodletters, but they still trade reasonably well against them, and they do have the fire resistance. It's not like so overwhelming that it mitigates the majority of damage from the Exalted Bloodletters, but it does help them quite a bit. So I do like the inclusion of those guys. So just moving up to the middle objective here, Fleshhounds are capping all the points just to get that early value lead. Cultist on foot coming in here with the summon. That's it. That's a good choice. Cultists are really good. They're not auto-includes by any means. I see a lot of people say that they are, but I really think that you can get away with bringing none oftentimes. Bringing two in a lot of matchups can actually put you down on numbers across the battlefield, just because, you know, I mean, it is a foot character at the end of the day. They can anchor pretty well, but they don't get any healing. They can get bullied around by quite a few units because their melee defense is pretty low, but we'll see what Tima is able to do here with them. Valkia getting in on the Hobgoblin Raiders, which is a really good call. Just picking off models on ranged units, always a pretty good idea with her. She's pretty good at it. That's kind of like her dream scenario for a straight-up fight. Dodges the bows getting back up in the air. Pops Demon Shield. A little preemptively. Demon Shield, after long hours and many experiments with Demon Shield, the best time to use it is simply when you're going to be fighting something scary. Like if you go in against Draz Hoeth to do some damage, You just pop Demon Shield, you get free damage for 13 seconds, and that's 3 or 4 attacks, and Valkyria's got good weapon strength. Really good melee attack. I mean, as long as she's got Frenzy up, it's pretty tops, honestly. So, prefer to save it to fight targets that she wants to do damage against, that she's theoretically pretty good against, but can also hit back against her, like Kadai Fireborn. 13 seconds of fighting against a Kadai Fireborn can be pretty lethal to Valkyria in my experience, but if you pop Demon Shield and then just follow up with Flesh Hound or something to collapse in on them, that's the best way to go about it. Right now, man, those Infernal Ironsworn and the Kadai are just absolutely manhandling these Flesh Hounds. And I saw Tima do this against Vampire Coast as well. Using Flesh Hounds to just dive into your opponent's backline is often probably the worst way to use them. They're much better at just capping points and forcing your opponent to like summon stuff out to go recap. And then they can get like surrounds on isolated infantry units, chase down routing stuff. They're much better at controlling the battlefield than they are at being DPS in any regard. Really good Sloughnir coming in here though. That's a good Sloughnir. More targeting like that from those guys, or on those guys, is what you need. You just can't throw Flesh Hounds against them. You know, people really overestimate these guys, I think, to their own detriment. They are an incredibly powerful unit, but they're not a do-everything type unit. They're very good at a couple of things, and that's what you should keep them at. Cultist fighting against Drazhoath, doing a decent amount of damage against him, but Drazhoath's going to win this at the end of the day. Does have a bonus versus infantry and better melee defense than the Cultist, so it's not the best fight for the Cultist here. Cultists are better used not fighting characters and just trying to get into like infantry unit, or even better, getting into the backline somehow and sneaking onto like a ranged unit. Because then you just fight, you grind up your gate, and you drop it, and then you just send the Bloodletters to chase something down and absolutely massacre it. The Bloodletter summons are incredible stuff. So, Teamy trying to get back here and use the Flesh Hounds to get in on the Ogle Khans and Wolf Raiders here. But getting trapped up by the Kadai, who are absolutely massacring these Bloodletters here. Perfect combat for Kadai, honestly. The only fight that would be better for these guys would be going up against Chaos Warriors, in which case they would be winning even harder. They're just an incredible unit. I love Kadai Fireborn. They're so much better after they got their changes to, what is it, Burning Bright? Yeah, it used to be they would lose it after 50% HP was lost, which was just stupid. I mean, they would just immediately crumble at that point, and they would never get their value back. But now, I would say they're in a pretty perfect position. They're just a damn solid unit that fills a really nice niche for the Chaos Dwarves. Chaos Warriors, great unit. Fighting a losing battle here, though. And the Chaos Dowie, Christopher's doing a really great job of just letting the battle come to him. I mean, you know, the Blood God having no mercy and no real strategy here. So Christopher just laying back in the woods, letting the Blood God's forces move in and bringing out the appropriate counters at the right time, and just slowly overwhelming the forces of Khorne here. Getting a big value lead. Khorne does not like to be at a deficit. You can be in a really good position if you're trading evenly, depending on the matchup. Obviously, there's some caveats to that. Undead and very good healing factions being the exceptions. But it's never a good sign if you're down as Khorne. You are desperately trying to get some kind of a value lead against your opponent, and just compounding on that over the course of the game, because as fun as Khorne is, there are some serious holes in the roster and what it's capable of doing. You have no real skirmish to speak of. Yeah, you've got the horsemen with the throwing axes, but they're incredibly short range, and they get hard countered by bows. Like, any bow cavalry is going to absolutely dumpster your Marauder Cav, more than likely. Fleshhounds, they're decent, but they can also get kited out by mobile cavalry like this. Honestly, if you see a build like what Christopher's brought, it's a very immobile force, honestly. Like, Kadai Fireborn are decently quick, 54 speed, but all of those Chaos Dwarf Warriors and the Infernal Ironsworn, they got like 26 speed. Like, just don't bother engaging them. Like, you've got Marauders, you've got Bloodletters, I mean, all of your units are faster, pretty much. What you want to do, you just come up here, you cap points, you use your Chaos Warriors to literally just catch arrows all game. Like, if a Hobgoblin Wolf Raider wants to fire all of its ammo at a Chaos Warrior, that is a huge win for you as Khorne. Because they're just wasting ammo. Your guys have silver shields, they're not getting a lot of damage through onto them. Even if they do start to surround, they're pushing into your backline at that point, and that's when you can use Fleshhounds and Furies to, like, set traps. Like, say for instance right here, okay, we're gonna do a hypothetical just for the fun of it, okay? The blue line is a Chaos Warrior. Green line is 3 Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders that are just peppering these guys down with arrows. Firing in, getting frustrated, they're not doing a lot of damage. They decide they're going to loop around the back here, okay? At that point, all you need to do to counter the Wolf Raiders who are now, like, in your backfield, basically, you just keep the Chaos Warriors, turn them around, get them facing in the direction with their shields again. You know, nothing's stopping them from doing that, basically. And then you just fly some Furies and Fleshhounds out of your Vanguard and just get right up in there. And your opponent's going to have to micro these guys back around your infantry units that's just sitting here. That's just, like, one example of a hypothetical of how you set traps to counter the, like, Hobgoblin play or Illyrian Reavers or any applicable bow cavalry that you'll see. Because people really love to bring bow cav against Khorne, because they're expecting the throwing axes in the opening, because Khorne players just love bringing big vanguards of the throwing axe cavalry, which I'm just not a huge fan of. I really like the throwing axes. They're an exceptionally strong unit, but only in moderation, in my opinion. There really does come a point where you're bringing too many of those guys and relying on them too much. And I've said it so many times, I'm going to continue to say it. Khorne's best performances are when you're playing them as like a Swiss Army knife faction. You want to bring as many of the different units on Khorne's roster as possible, and have something for every occasion. You want to have a couple Minotaurs, probably. It's not a bad idea to mix a Spawn in. Spawn do something that Minotaurs can't do, which is take bad fights and just hold and do damage in situations that you otherwise wouldn't want to send a Minotaur in. Like, they could run up in this combat, and if, you know, Khorne had a little bit more on the battlefield, they could take this fight against the Bull Centaur Renders, Kadai, and Infernal Ironsworn and occupy all of this stuff right now. And then you can just use superior mobility to just surround and slowly grind out the Chaos Dowie. It's not really possible right now, considering the state of the battle, but another example, Minotaurs are obviously really nice. They do really good against large targets. Exalted Bloodletters can do really well for themselves. You just don't want to overcommit to bringing too much of any one thing, because you're not going to win that way as Khorne. I've learned from experience after a very long time of losing games that the best way of going about it is to bring a mix. It's nice to have a Blood Shrine and a Skull Cannon every now and then. They can do a lot of work that you would otherwise not be able to accomplish if you didn't have them in your army. Well, and that's another thing that Skull Cannons are good at. Skull Cannons are amazing right now because people love bringing these bow cav. And all you do is you just roll a Skull Cannon right up in their face because it's got superior armor to the missile strength of these guys, as well as Phys Res. People forget that the Skull Cannons also have Phys Res. So you just roll up, you get within like a really short range, and you just absolutely obliterate them with the cannon fire. And then when you're out of ammo with a Skull Cannon, you just go and find find like a chaff infantry or something like a chaos dwarf warrior to just farm more ammo and health off of. Because skull cannons have really disruptive attack patterns. They don't take a lot of damage from these non-AP melee infantry. It's just free value. It's really good. That's why I love skull cannons, man. People call them shit all the time, and I just wanna push back on that. So, I've probably over-explained the Khorne meta for this entire match, but just to give y'all an idea of what you can do with them. Exalted Bloodletters, they're chewing on Drazhoath a little bit. What is this? Is this Flames of Asgore? Oh my god, it is. Drazhoath with the Flames of Asgore just to delete the Exalted Bloodletters here. What a great cast. Good stuff, man. Love Drazhoath. He's such a cool lord. Mostly used Ash Storm this game, but keeping that in the back pocket and building up the Demon Spike Crucible to just auto-delete just an absolutely sauce-to-the-gills elite unit that costs 1,200 gold, mind you. That's beautiful stuff. So Christopher is putting on a pretty masterful performance here. Tima definitely showing a little bit of inexperience with playing with Khorne here, but maybe if you watch this, you learn a little something, and I can send you more replays of how to like properly micro Khorne forces around. This is a pretty good fight. Fleshhounds are pretty good against the Bull Centaur renders, because they have really good weapon strength, and these guys have pretty shit armor. And yeah, they're going to take a lot of damage in return, but if you get an overwhelming number of the Fleshhounds and just swarm these guys, for 1,600 gold, you can get 2 Fleshhounds. They're 1,500 in total, and you'll win that combat pretty consistently. So that's a good use of Fleshhounds in this matchup. Furies are even better against Bull Centaur renders. Furies absolutely annihilate Bull Centaurs.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Absolutely bananas how good they are against them. They just fly in, land, and they're really high like weapon strength and melee attack. They have better melee attack than Fleshhounds, mind you. Absolutely shreds those gigantic, ponderous beasties. This is how you know you're in the pits as a Khorne player, when you're just summoning out Fleshhounds and Furies in the late game. You're probably losing the match. So we're gonna fast forward through the rest of this. It was admirably played by Tima, and he did get a nice like ticket lead, but just bleeding a little too much value in return. And it's not reflecting the demonic instability that's been going on this whole game. That never gets reflected in the damage value. That's another reason why you don't want to ever be down as Khorne, because you're almost always going to be losing, like, you know, maybe 400 or 500 value in demonic instability at various points just from units crumbling out. So that's another reason that you want to be up, you know, because that trade is a lot worse than it actually is, honestly. Very misleading. More Exalted Bloodletters coming out, just getting wrecked by Kadai Fireborn. And now the Iron Demon coming out. And the choo-choo train is definitely going to be taking the Chaos Dowie all the way home for the dub here. Getting the triple cap finally and putting the nail in the coffin for the Blood God's forces. Probably not going to be able to take any of these back. A very fruitless Sword of Khorne there at the end. Sword of Khorne is good in some matchups, but mostly against factions that bring a lot of chaff. Against the Chaos Dowie, what you want to use your army abilities on is like Sword of Khorne and Relentless Rage. That's where you get the most value out of it. So really good stuff from Christopher's. Very excited to play him again at some point. Hopefully soon. Because I'd love to play against this build. This build has some serious heat to it. And I really love the inclusion of Flames of Asgore on Drazhoath. I think there's a serious argument to be made that those super high damage, high cost spells are as good as they ever have been, and might have some more applications now than at any other point in the game's history. Alright, guys. Last replay of the day. What's good, man? How's it going, Elliot? This is going to be the last replay of the day, guys. We're going to be doing Dowie versus Greenskins. And then I'm going to go paint my Warhammer models a little bit more. I got really invested in that today. And also started the stream a little later than I was thinking. But we'll do a stream sometime during the week where I play some matches against y'all. That'd be really awesome. I've had a lot of fun doing that in the past. I'd really like to do some more of those. So, on Kassar's Cursed Oasis, we've got Spikes. Spikes spent the entire tournament bringing this gyrocopter and the Skyhammer Squadron build. It is pretty brutal. He has done pretty good work with it throughout it. I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to beat the Greenskin Supremacist here, who's a really good Greenskins player, funnily enough. Who'd have guessed? Savage Orc Air Boys, lots of those guys. We got Goblins. Just regular old Goblins. You don't need the Goblin Spears because they do get a little extra melee defense, but they do cost more. You might as well save the gold. It's not like they're going to do that much better or be really even all that efficient against Dowie in the first place. We'll see how they do. There's a lot of miners with blasting charges in the opening here. So, Goblins, you can kite out blasting charges, actually. It's really difficult. It requires pretty tight timing. But, if you practice doing it enough, you can do it pretty reliably. You, like, run up in here. You get right at the edge of the range. You, like, sit right there. And the second the Dowie unit stops, you immediately run back. And what happens is the Dowie just blow their load all over the place, and they do no damage. Because the blasting charges don't follow the same way that some projectiles do, where they, like, track back out of range. They just throw at the edge of it and do nothing. It's very funny. I've pulled it off a few times. It's always incredibly satisfying. Night Goblins, doing some damage to the Gyros. Gyros got rampaged with fermented fungi right down into the core of these Night Goblins. And they're doing a little bit of damage, but nothing substantial to follow this up. But just as I say that, Savage Orc War Boys coming in, they're going to have something to say about this. They're going to start tearing through these Gyros. But those Gyros do get back up in the air decently well. They lost a few models. We'll keep an eye out on them. And, man, those blasting charges, dude. Just fat value on those. But that is it for them. They're really bad in melee combat. They're going to lose to, like, semi-healthy Orc Boys here. You know? I like blasting charges. I think they do pretty good work, but I'm not super sold on bringing them in your opening line. Because if that becomes your calling card, people are going to learn that they can just bring some heavily armored infantry or just throw SEs in the front-loaded portion of their build, and then your miners are not going to ever get anything done. Disgusting damage from the Skyhammer Squadron right now. Just blowing apart the Savage Orc Air Boys. Oh my god, look at this, man. That is masterful micro coming in there from Spikes, who has gotten 1,000 value and 157 kills with the Skyhammer Squadron in the opening. You don't see that too terribly often. And Greenskins really don't have any answers for those things. They've got the Air Boys. They could be shooting up into them, but they're, you know, decently quick, obviously. I mean, 90 speed. They can definitely maneuver around well enough that they're not going to get hit by a majority of the missile fire. Really do need something flying to deal with these guys. I don't know what that is. I mean, you can bring Azak, but he's pretty vulnerable. I guess the Spirit Leeches might be able to do it. Spirit Leeching down the Gyro Bombers isn't a bad idea, but the amount of value that they've got, have they paid for themselves already? Not quite. But they're well on their way. I mean, good grief. 1,200 value, 217 kills, and the Gyrocopters and the Royal Dowie Air Force proving its proving its superiority as per usual, man. Absolutely nailing the greenskins here. And we got some Thunderers. Nice little position for these guys to shoot from. Glorious dwarven firepower going in here. Only the finest firearms in all of the old world being used to crush the Dowie horde, or crush the greenskin hordes here. My mistake, guys. Groby and just orcs dying in droves here, man. Where are they shooting? They're shooting back here at these goblins, which isn't a bad idea. They could definitely line up and get some good flanking fire on these guys and break the orc boy position here. And I'm gonna have to say I think that the Dowie are in a pretty good position to win this so far. Based on the opening, Greenskin Supremacist does have a little bit of a value lead. We're gonna have to see how deceptive that is, though, because the gyrocopters are coming in here doing some really good damage, really good work. These guys, they're not doing nearly as high. They're getting counter-fired right now by some of the archers here, it looks like. Spirit Leech down. And Trolls starting to come in and do some good work. Lots of Orc boys, too, left in the battlefield. Pretty tattered, a lot of them, but if they can start getting on top of some of these missiles and shutting them down, maybe they can start grinding back into this game. They do have a double cap right now, starting to grind back a little bit of the ticket differential here that the Dowie had a big advantage on in the early going, but after that big Skyhammer Squadron bombardment, it's starting to look like the Greenskins are going to start flipping this around. The bows look like they've killed the Gyro Bomber squad. I don't see them anywhere on the battlefield here. I don't know how the hell I missed them dying, but they either got unsummoned or shot to pieces, and the gyrocopters that are left haven't quite paid for themselves, and this one's certainly taking some nasty damage and gets rampaged. Gonna be landing on the ground into a really ugly fight for them. We've got Stone Trolls here. We've got some, well, Night Goblins routing, but it's not like Pump Wagons. You can see the damage that they're taking. Terrible melee defense on these things, so against the AP of the Trolls, absolute massacre. Very good play from Greenskin Supremacist right now. Thorit getting Spirit Leech now, and he's done decently. He's got 121 kills. I would imagine dropping the Rune of Wrath and Ruin on some orcs. Doing his best, and it's razor close in the value, man. Greenskin's doing a pretty decent job around the battlefield. Looks like they went out here. Did they kill all of the Thunderers? Oh my god. Absolutely incredible jump there. Getting Dirk Squigs and just going deep into the Dowie lines. And they absolutely maul the Thunderers, completely destroying this entire unit with the assistance of some Orc boys. Really nice stuff from the Greenskins, killing that Thunderer. Very punishing ranged unit for the Dowie, honestly. Ironbreaker's struggling immensely against the Flappas here. I love the inclusion of these chariots. Dowie are terrible at fighting chariots, man. They're so haggard when it comes to catching stuff in mass. Like, Slayers just get flattened by chariot units. And Dowie Warriors do as well, but, you know, they have a little bit better mass because they're more compact as a formation. But Flappa's nevertheless coming in and doing good work. They're chewing through the Ironbreakers, which is a great use out of these guys. Stopping them from fully paying for themselves here. Very close, though. And we've got the gyrocopters in the sky here. Just about out of everything. You know, they've used all their ammo. I think they've used all the bombs, too. 171 kills, though. But just short of paying for themselves. And I'm curious to see what the Flappas versus Gyrocopter matchup looks like. Who do y'all think wins? I need an over-under, guys. What do you think the odds in Vegas are? I actually think the Gyrocopters are beating the Snotling Pump Wagons. But that might be because there's some Grim Delvers and the Long John Slayer Pirates back here. Pump Wagons deciding that they're just not having it with the flying bastards here. Going in, and they're getting some good damage on the Grim Delvers. Maybe they'll have enough of an opportunity to get in here on the Thunderers, and the Thunderers actually shooting down the River Troll Hag. Looks like she got knocked over by the gunfire and took some more shots on the way out. 900 value on her. She's got a lot of room to regen, though, which is nice. What a fantastic Fanatics cast. Going through both of the Longbeards and the Dwarf Warriors. Half health off the Longbeards. About 20% off the Dowie Warriors. And a huge Alpha Strike of River Trolls coming in. Getting all over the Dowie here. Doing some nasty work. Wrath of Ruin, doing a little bit of damage to the Orc Boys there here. Oh, sorry, Night Goblins. Doing a little bit, but not a tremendous amount of damage. And the Orcs starting to lose out on the value now. Looks like just losing a little bit too much steam here. Not having enough chaff infantry to sit underneath the trolls and assist the flappers and everything. And it's starting to look like the Dowie might be getting in position to take over this game. A thin line of Grim Delvers and Long John Slayer Pirates continuing to fire in here. Not giving an inch against the Greenskin Hordes. 1,200 value on these guys. Doing pretty good for themselves. That River Troll taking some nasty fire right to the face. Still standing, though. How many shots does it take? Oh, there we go. Now it's done. So a lot of range punishment going in here. And the short stature of the Dowie coming into play for sure here. Slayers setting up their brethren in the back line here with some good opportunities to get good shots. And these Dowie are selling their lives dearly. Breaking the River Trolls here. And I don't know if the Greenskin's going to be able to find a way back into this game. They're down pretty significantly now. 2,100 value down. More gyrocopters are out on the field, continuing to trade well. And provide some really good value here, man. Rune of Hearth and Home. I don't know why people don't bring this more. I didn't even know that it gave reduced vigor. That's huge. That's perfect vigor in a radius around him. Wow, look at the Stone Trolls, man, melting under the withering assault of these Slayers, man. Oh my god, 1,200 value on the Slayers. Slayers are getting caught up on Orc Boys, but they're going to break these Orc Boys too, man. These Slayers are relentless. They don't give a shit. They're going all out, taking on each and every greenskin that comes into view. They're going to earn their glorious death today, or live trying, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. Blasting Charge Volley going in here, doing a little bit of damage to those Orc Boys. And we've got some Savage Orc Boys going in there as well. Also eating a few Blasting Charges to the face. Grim Delvers do get taken offline by the River Trolls, but the River Trolls, oh my goodness, actually the River Trolls break before the Grim Delvers do. 10 models and 200 health left. Heroes. And they give, oh my god, they give just enough time for the Thunderers to turn their volleys onto these River Trolls, and they just gun down half the freaking unit in one fell swoop, man. Shattering those Trolls, and the Greenskin rout is on. The entire army is routing just about. One last gasp being summoned out of the deployment zones for Greenskin supremacist here, but I fear the worst for these guys. Don't think they're going to be able to get back on the objectives. They're down pretty significantly. Not quite triple cap territory, but damn close. I don't think it matters one way or the other. I don't think they're even going to be able to cap one more objective. I mean, Dowie have a pretty free path out here, but you really do have to love the Dwarven patience here to not think, oh yeah, I should go grab the triple cap. Nah, no need. Just sit on 2 objectives and just, you know, make your opponent cry for the next, like, 20 minutes. Lovely stuff from the Dowie here. Oh, the Skyhammer. Oh, I missed it. Oh, no. But look at the damage that those bombs do from the Skyhammer. Disgusting, disgusting work. Spikes with a very, very well-played game here. Doing a good job of rallying from the Greenskin resurgence in the mid-game there, and finding a way to just take that game over in the 4th quarter, giving no quarter to the Groby and the just disgusting hordes that they're facing, man. So lovely, lovely stuff, guys. And that's going to be it for me tonight. Just going to show off the values for y'all here at the end. Thoric doing pretty well for himself. I really love Thoric. He's such a cool lord. I wish some of the other Dowie lords were a little bit more versatile like he is. Other than Thorak, I think you've got like Ungrim, and then like the Demon Slayer, I think is the we'll go take a look actually. This will be the last thing I do. Where are the Dowie? There they are. Where is he? Oh yeah, the Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer is really good because it's just incredibly cheap. You can like bring him with nothing except Glorious Death. Worthy Foe's not that good. I mean, you can bring the Hammer of Karak Draz because it's a great debuff. It's really short range, but it's got a crazy duration on it. That's kind of worth it, and you got 950 gold Lord there, so you can just go super wide. But I'm telling you, man, old Ungrim Iron Fist here is just an absolute beast. Look at the ability. I mean, the abilities he has are pretty buffoonish. I mean, plus 75%, plus 50%. If you pop both of these at the same time, he gets up to like 900 weapon strength. That's disgusting. So I think Ungrim is pretty underrated, but yeah, Thoric, always a solid option. Good stuff. Alright. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll catch y'all later. GG's, peace, and I'll be back in a couple days for another stream. I'll either host a tournament or we'll just do some quick battles goodness. Until then, take care.